renewal. With the welcome of those lucky few who will make that next step. Those idols of so many eyes on streets, in neighborhoods, in towns across America. Boys, now men who will suddenly put their homes on the NFL map.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Allen, South Carolina.
Big Stone Gap, Virginia.
A name, a number, a team. A day for celebrating a special kind of destiny. A day for welcoming local heroes to the big show. Draft Day.
Welcome to New York and a view of the Statue of Liberty. For years, a symbol of hope, a symbol of dreams of a new life and new fortune. And never could that be truer than this weekend annually in April, when the likes of Courtney Brown, defensive end of Penn State, and his Nittany Lions teammate LeVar Arrington, the linebacker, and the big tackle from Alabama, Chris Samuels, and the speedster from Florida State, Peter Warrick, and the classy running back from Virginia, Thomas Jones. That's just the tip of the iceberg of those young men who will begin their professional career officially here in the coming hours. The Jets in New York. They've been talking New York, New York. Never before has a team had 4 first-round picks. But before the Jets get to pick, the Giants had 11 of the pick right before them, and they are here, as are fans from the Dog Pound, the Cleveland Browns, who, of course, are on the clock in their second year of existence. Here we are in New York for the 65th annual National Football League selection meeting. We got to say it. Joe Theismann, Mel Kiper. Oh, by the way, I'm Chris Berman, and welcome back for our 21st coverage of the NFL Draft. It has become an event. I mean, just listen to the crowd. It's almost like week 1 in the NFL is starting right here. And certainly in Cleveland, they've been anticipating this day since the Browns finished their inaugural rebirth season with a bye in week 17. They've been on the clock. They knew they would have their choice of great players, players who they hope, along with Tim Couch, the #1 pick last year, will be cornerstones of this new franchise for the next 10 or 12 years. And when you say cornerstone, how fitting is it that a guy named Brown, Courtney Brown, looks to be the first draft pick of the Cleveland Browns in the new millennium? Is he signed yet? Let's head out to Lake Erie and join our Susie Colbert. Hi, Suze.
Hi, Chris. Well, for the second year in a row, the Browns do get their man before the draft begins. Carmen Policy told me just minutes ago that he does know that they have come to terms, but he hasn't gotten the official call that Courtney Brown is signed. But here's what we do know. One of the stumbling blocks was terms. The Cleveland Browns wanted 7 years. Courtney Brown wanted 6 years. The Browns gave in. And while he won't make as much as Tim Couch did over the long term, he will make more over the first 3 years. And that's a little more expensive than what they expected to pay for a non-quarterback. Now the question will be asked, why Courtney Brown over LeVar Arrington when LeVar Arrington was actually rated a decimal point higher on the board in the war room? Well, Chris Palmer told me yesterday that while he certainly likes LeVar Arrington, he loves Courtney Brown. He pointed out that last year they were a league-low 25 sacks. Courtney Brown is just so fast to the quarterback. A record at Penn State, 33 sacks. That's what they're expecting. Chris?
All right, Susie, we'll be going to you early and often in these 2 days as the Browns have a total of 14 picks, of course, including #1. To open proceedings officially, who else but the Commissioner of the National Football League, Paul Tagliabue.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the first NFL college player draft of the new millennium. We appreciate all the fans who are here with us this afternoon. We thank you for being here. We appreciate the millions of fans who are watching on ESPN. The first selection in the NFL Draft 2000 belongs to the Cleveland Browns, who are now on the clock.
All right, Commissioner, thank you. We'll be seeing him often and visiting with the Commissioner after the first round is over to ask some questions about where the league is headed in the new millennium, as he points out. While we have never before, in our continuing expansion of the coverage of the draft, been in all 31 sites, either reporters, teleconferencing, war room cams. We're everywhere. When we say we're everywhere, we're not kidding. We're probably at cities that don't even have teams yet. We're located there as well. And in this Y2K, we try to move with the times here at ESPN. We have merged our television coverage with the internet. The location, Draft Central at ESPN.com or NFL.com. It's your opportunity to watch and participate in our draft coverage. You can follow us wall to wall while going more in-depth online with our draft tracker and chats. You get extensive coverage of your favorite team. And with our on-the-clock fan poll, you can get to cast your vote live for who you think your team should pick while they're on the clock. And, of course, all those Cleveland fans, they already know Courtney Brown is in the lead on our first fan poll here as we speak. Now, the question, Mel Kiper and Joe Theismann, the question, Mel, is you're the general manager, not of the Browns, because they have a good general manager in Dwight Clark. They got a good president in Carmen Policy. If you're making the first pick in this draft, is it Courtney Brown or LeVar Arrington from Penn State?
LeVar Arrington for me, Chris. I've had him as the #1 player since back in December, January. One team ecstatic right now, the Washington Redskins. In order to have a successful draft, Arrington had to be part of the Redskins equation. Brings an attitude, a passion to the game, elevates the performance of everybody in that front seven on that defense. And LeVar Arrington, a special player, not just like Courtney Brown. 70 career tackles for loss for Courtney Brown. He has the ability as a pass rusher, as a defensive end, almost 6'5", 270 pounds, to elevate that Cleveland Browns defense. They talked about the ability of a defensive end to get after the quarterback. It's exactly what Courtney Brown will bring to that Cleveland Browns defense. You see the size, that 270, 275, where Arrington has that ability to go out and just dominate, intimidate, play the game with so much passion. Humble, soft-spoken as Courtney Brown. Needs to develop a little bit more of a mean streak at the pro level. Remember, every offensive tackle in the National Football League knows every trick in the book, how to keep defensive ends at bay. So it's going to be interesting to see how he reacts to the great offensive tackles in the NFL rather than at the college level. So if he turns up the intensity, gains that mean streak with his physical and athletic ability and his work ethic, Courtney Brown has a chance to be a heck of a defensive end in the NFL, Joe.
No, I think there's one thing you have to consider. When you look at a defensive end, defensive ends are so hard to find. Courtney Brown is one of those unique men who can become the staple of your defense. It's an anchor. You can give him an opportunity to play all the time. That's a big thing. I think when you get to Arrington, he's going to have to be a situation player for whoever he winds up, probably the Redskins. They'll have to find ways for him to fit in. I really think that Courtney Brown, in the case of the Cleveland Browns, is an excellent pick. 31st against sacks, 31st in interceptions, 31st in run defense. Really bad on defense in every area, Chris. And I think if you've got a chance to get a kid that you can start with as a staple, it's a good way to go. And I like Brown here.
Defensive end is your defensive home run hitter.
He really is. And he's there for a long time, too.
And there are a lot of home runs being hit in Cleveland here the last decade. And so here's another guy, except he's doing it in football. So Courtney Brown will be the man for Cleveland shortly, officially. Of course, we have some home run hitters ourselves working on this draft, not the least of which our compatriots up on our second set here in New York, Mike Tirico and Chris Mortensen. Guys, top of the draft, we think we have scoped out. The key word, we think.
That's right, Chris. Let's look at the next level of the draft, Mort. With Washington sitting at 2 and 3 because of the Ricky Williams trade last year. That's New Orleans pick at #2. Will Washington be happy if they get LeVar Arrington and Samuels, the offensive tackle from Alabama?
They will be ecstatic. In fact, they have refused to even bite on nibbles in terms of trying to trade up to the #1 spot, make sure they get LeVar Arrington. In fact, the interesting story is yesterday there was a bump in negotiations between Courtney Brown and Marvin Demoff, in the Cleveland Browns. In fact, what happened there, the Browns then tried to call Kevin Poston, the agent for LeVar Arrington, as they did last year, playing Achilles Smith against Tim Couch. Kevin Poston, LeVar Arrington's representative, refused to return the phone call, basically saying, we want to go to the Redskins. And the Redskins certainly knew that they wanted Arrington, Arrington wanted them.
The way it should shake down, Cincinnati at 4 would then take Peter Warrick. My question to you, why no Warrick to Washington?
Well, you know what I was told at the owners' meetings? It's all because of Desmond Howard. If you remember, Desmond Howard was taken, I think, the 4th pick in the draft a few years back. Desmond Howard was a bust. Redskins fans haven't forgotten it, and they really needed a left tackle in this draft. They wanted a premier one. The premier one's Chris Samuels of Alabama.
5 spot belongs to Baltimore, and if we had a guess to handicap the next hour, 5 is going to be the hot spot. Why? One of the moves has to do with a possible free agent signing for Baltimore.
Well, the key signing for the Baltimore Ravens. They signed Sam Adams. They reached an agreement in principle with Sam Adams on a $20 million deal. What that allows them to do now is to trade out of the 5 spot if they want. Otherwise, they would have stayed there and taken Corey Simon, the defensive tackle from Florida State. But in this instance, a lot of teams calling. The Jets, the Packers, among the teams calling. The target players there, I think, for those teams are guys like Plaxico Burress, the receiver. And I think Corey Simon, and maybe a surprise with Brian Urlacher being a target player by one of those particular teams. The Ravens then can take their running back of choice, Jamal Lewis, a wide receiver, a guy like Travis Taylor.
And what we hear is Baltimore would like to pick 12 or 13 and 27, 2 of the Jets' first-round picks. The Jets' own pick 12, 13, 18, 27. Sounds like the lotto numbers. We'll see if it's a jackpot down the road. Tom Jackson is down the road at Jets headquarters. Tommy, are the Jets burning up the phone as we bring you in to look for a trade?
Well, I think as you look at the Jets' strategy for the day, they have the luxury with the 4 choices of trying to fill 3 starting spots on their ball club. I know that they want to do that. Certainly, Corey Simon holds interest for a lot of ball clubs up between 5 and 10. I think they obviously have to fill the wide receiver spot that is left with the absence now of Keyshawn Johnson, and an outside linebacker, defensive end, rush type. And from knowing Coach Al Groh and Bill Parcells, they want somebody who's going to be on the field for all 3 downs. So I think when you look at this ball club, you know, they have the juice to do a lot of things today, and I think that's why it sets such an exciting precedent here at Jets camp.
Well, Tommy, we will don't leave on us now, because, I mean, we're going to need to come to you every 2 or 3 minutes.
That's fine.
And it's never before seen a team with 4 picks in the first round. What is it, 15 times someone said 3 first-round picks, but never before 4 first-round picks. That'll be the Jets. And we'll see if, and indeed, they make a move, or they're well-positioned where they are. Well, Cleveland hopes they're not in this position next year, because that would mean 3 years in a row. 1 expansion, and then 2 in a row, they would have the worst record in the NFL. And they probably won't. Although they know that to move up the charts, Joe, you got to stop somebody.
All you have to do is look at the numbers, Chris. 31 rushed yards, 31 total, 31st sacks, 8 sacks, 25 sacks, 8 interceptions. When you look at this defense, there were so many different holes. You have to understand, it was a defense that was put together with players that came from 32 different systems. They really just felt their way last year, and it showed just in their statistical outcomes. I think what you're going to have to understand is Courtney Brown now can become an anchor. That's where you can start. Now you can start to fill in the younger guys around them. I think the next area they're going to have to certainly address will be the defensive secondary. But you have to get pressure on the quarterback. Every coach today says we want to try and be able to generate offense. A good way to stop that is to get some pressure on the quarterback. They can do it with the Courtney Brown.
How do these things all come to pass? How did the ratings right at the top change here, Mel?
Really, Chris, the workouts. Individual workouts were the key in the equation to separate Warwick, Arrington, and Brown. And when you look at it, Arrington and Brown were phenomenal. You look at LeVar Arrington and the 4.54 speed, also 20 reps at 225, and about a 40-inch vertical jump. Courtney Brown at about 270. That 4.52 is amazing. Also had a 37-inch vertical jump and did 26 reps, whereas Peter Warwick ran that 4.640. He was only 5'10 and a half. You factor in the off-the-field concerns, it's easy to see why Brown, Arrington separated from Peter Warwick, but it's still an honor, Joe, to be the 4th pick overall. So for Peter Warwick, you dropped a little bit, but hey, what's wrong with that?
Well, nothing's wrong with that. Nothing's wrong with that. And he has a chance to, if he goes to Cincinnati, we'll have a chance to discuss it, be part of the solution to what clearly has been a problem. And that should be exciting to a young man. But you know that Courtney Brown is excited. Tommy Jackson, you've played, well, certainly been around guys, maybe not that many, who have this sort of ability at the defensive end position. What does that do if you are a defensive teammate of Courtney Brown's? What assumptions can you make on defense, knowing that he's there taking care of a couple of guys, let's say?
Well, Chris, he is going to be a playmaker, and he's going to be a guy who's going to get the attention of, as you say, 2 or 3 guys defensively. In talking to his Penn State coach, Jerry Sandusky, he said he's very coachable, and I think that the thing that's going to separate him is the outstanding athleticism. Let's take a closer look at Courtney Brown. 267 pounds, and look at the athleticism as he gets up, shows a great set of hands, and then watch Drew Brees trying to chase him down as Courtney goes for the touchdown here. Outstanding athleticism. Here taking on the double team, going to be coming from the top of the screen right there. Again, the low center of gravity. Look at the drive through the ball and doing this with a broken left hand cast on the hand. He is a relentless pass rusher in the mode of Bruce Smith, and that's why he draws the comparisons. Blocked at the line of scrimmage here initially. You see him continue to fight toward the football, finally able to throw the tackle off, spin out of it, and then look at the hand work down low. And as he lines up on the same side as his counterpart, LeVar Arrington, look at the quickness right there at the point of attack as he grabs Drew Brees and sacks him. Now, when you hear a guy compared to the next Bruce Smith, I think the comparisons are physical. You're talking about a kid that has an outstanding wingspan. He has good size, great quickness off the ball, and I think he's going to be an outstanding pro. The attitude is what will separate Courtney Brown from the rest. Boomer?
He truly is, Tommy, night and day. Yes, sir, no, sir, firm handshake, soft-spoken, and then on the field, yikes. Dwight Clark told me, the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, that of the 3 best football players he has ever been around, one of them was Bryant Young, and the difference that he made on that team in San Francisco and the way he handled himself as a human being and as a football player. He said, Courtney Brown, I see a Bryant Young type, and that's a pretty good endorsement, although you hate to put a tag of some of the best players on a player like this. Now, we told you, obviously, the Jets have 4 picks. Here's a big picture of the day. We've never seen this many teams have multiple picks. The Skins, who are coming up 2 and 3 with a pair. Baltimore with 2 picks in the top 10. San Francisco has 2 picks as they've moved backwards as the week's gone on. The Seattle Seahawks have 2 picks courtesy of Joey Galloway. That means there are a handful of teams that have no picks, like the Saints, Ricky Williams. San Diego, no surprise. Tampa Bay because of Keyshawn Johnson. New England because of Bill Belichick. Atlanta, Dallas with Galloway, and Miami. So those 7 teams have no first-round picks. Unlike the last couple of years, where last year quarterback was 1, 2, 3, and 5 in the top half of the draft, and the year before with Manning and Leaf, quarterback was 1, 2. This is more a nuts and bolts at the very top of the draft. Defense hasn't been first since 1994, since Cincinnati took Big Daddy Wilkinson. So we've had 5 years when an offensive player has gone at the top of the draft. This is kind of going back to the roots a little bit, and then you're probably going to have tackle and linebacker next before your first skill player. However, look for a half-dozen receivers to go, started by Peter Warrick. Look for 4 running backs to go, probably in the top 21, if not higher than that, although you never know. So there will be some skill players, you know, from college, but probably only 1 quarterback, Chad Pennington. So a little different flavor than the last couple of years if you've watched the draft. Wanted to give you the big picture before we get into the microbreweries, which we begin with Cleveland's pick officially to the podium and the commissioner. And the fan poll, almost 50% say what? That they should pick Courtney Brown, and guess what? The other 50%, you're out of luck. There he is. There he is, and to Cleveland he shall be.
The first choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the Cleveland Browns select Courtney Brown, defensive end, Penn State.
.6'4", 269 from Alvin, South Carolina. And a lot of his family's up. I met a couple of his young nephew. They're all so polite. They're all so excited. And then they should be. What a great day this is. You've worked hard, and you talk about a hard worker. Here he is.
Chris, I think you bring up a great point. Here's a young man that's really earned this opportunity. He has worked hard. He did outstanding things at Penn State. He showed an awful lot of quickness, an awful lot of speed. He's not the biggest guy, which really impresses me. I think his frame can get bigger. I think it's fair, as Tommy mentioned, to say this could be the next Bruce Smith that we're talking about. Maybe doesn't have the length of the arms, maybe doesn't have the size up front. I think the big thing for him, he's going to have to learn to take on double teams. The big thing that young defensive ends have to learn is they've got to find complementary moves. He can't just be an outside rusher. He's going to have to rely on power and strength, and he'll have to wind up with some type of a move that takes him inside to be a complete defensive end. Right now, he certainly has the speed and the intensity. I think the other things he'll be able to work with in the Brown organization.
He joins Bruce Smith, #1 overall pick in the draft in 1985, and Leroy Selman, defensive end in 1976, #1 overall pick in the draft. Bruce Smith will be a Hall of Famer. Leroy Selman is a Hall of Famer. Too Tall Jones was also a #1 overall pick. So at defensive ends, there's some pretty good pedigree. You picked one at defensive end, you turn out pretty darn good for a decade.
You really do, Chris. I think with Courtney Brown, you look at all that ability, and such a nice kid, and such a humble young man, the intensity. I think that's something he needs to pick up. Talk about Bruce Smith with the fire, the determination. Once you get into the NFL and you're going up against those bookend tackles with a great technique, that's what's going to be interesting to see if he can pick it up. Arrington already has it. Brown needs to develop it in the National Football League.
That's Tim Couch, who you saw up there, who last year was in Courtney's spot. It's a nice touch by the Browns.
Well, it really is, Chris. But in regards to what Mel said, you know, I've been around some guys that really could knock you down, and they were nice. But when they put that uniform on, they all of a sudden found a nasty streak that you wouldn't see generally. I think Courtney Brown, when he puts a uniform on, becomes the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde of football. He plays with such great intensity.
Well, I tell you what, when you have about a half with 6 months to kind of make your decision, it's not that surprising that the coach who made this choice is readily available to ESPN. And that, of course, is Chris Palmer, the coach of the Cleveland Browns. He's with our Susie Kolber. And, Suze, they got their man.
Chris, they certainly did. And, Chris, we know how difficult this decision was. LeVar Arrington actually rated higher on the draft board. So why Courtney Brown?
Well, we had a long, healthy discussion about both players, and they're both outstanding football players. They come from an outstanding football program at Penn State. And basically what it came down to was that the defensive end is a factor in rushing the quarterback, and that's what we decided on. But both players are outstanding football players, and we couldn't go wrong with either guy, but we decided on Courtney Brown, and we're very, very happy.
There were some questions whether or not, because he's so polite and quiet, is he nasty enough for the NFL?
Well, I think if you go back and look at some of the Big Ten quarterbacks, when they threw an interception, he had a knack of turning around and hunting him up and knocking him to the ground. So I don't think the quarterbacks in the Big Ten think he's really a mild-mannered guy on the field. He's a guy that plays within himself. He's an outstanding football player. And when you see a guy that is a good student, is a good person, and is an outstanding football player, you like to see those guys finish first.
The Browns signed defensive end Keith McKenzie in the offseason, but we can assume that Courtney Brown will be starting at right defensive end. What adjustments will he have to make from the college level to the pro level?
Well, I told Keith McKenzie he would be the starting defensive end going into camp, and we'll have competition at every position. And, you know, Courtney will have to try to get the #1 spot, and Keith's got to hold the #1 spot. So it'll be an interesting training camp for those defensive ends.
Of course, Joe Paterno, his coach at Penn State, called Courtney Brown the best defensive end in Penn State history. Now we'll see if he can be the best defensive end in Cleveland Browns history. Well, let's go to Mike Tirico, who is with Courtney Brown.
Susie, thank you. Courtney, congratulations. Turn around a second. You have Bruce Smith's picture back here, Too Tall Jones, over there Plunkett, Elway, all the #1 picks of all time, and now you're one of them. How does it feel?
Feels great. I consider it a blessing and an honor to be the first player picked in the 2000 draft, and I just want to give thanks to the Lord for his many blessings, and give thanks for my family, my mom and dad who made it out here, and just give thanks to my coaches back at school, everybody who played a part in this, all my family back at home, and Alvin, family and friends, everyone who's supporting this thing, and I just want to say thanks.
You mentioned Alvin, South Carolina, town of 800. They're at the Kinlaw's barbershop all watching and cheering, I'm sure, right now. Tell me what it's like for a small-town guy to be the #1 pick in the draft here in the big city and really live a dream.
It's exciting, man. It's really exciting. It's hard to put it into words, but I feel real good, and I'm thankful, and I just want to say hey to everyone back in Alvin.
Congratulations, Courtney. Courtney Brown, #1 pick. Tim Couch handed the jersey, somewhat symbolic. We'll see what happens down the road. The Washington Redskins are the team on the clock next. And remember, at NFL.com and ESPN.com, Draft Central has you completely updated. You can join in and get in on the fan poll. Who will the Washington Redskins pick? They have the #2 overall pick in the draft and #3. They're on the clock. You look at their war room as we come back from New York and around the NFL.
This is a celebration of performance, athletic performance, and Pontiac performance. As an official sponsor of the 2000 U.S. Olympic team, Pontiac invites you to the Pontiac Performance Experience. Get 2.9% APR on Bonneville SE. Pontiac owners get an additional loyalty offer. You'll also get a chance to win a trip to see the 2000 U.S. Olympic team compete in Sydney. Just log on to Pontiac.com or call to enter and you could be there. Hey, your opportunity to experience exciting performance is here.
Boom! Stop dead in his tracks. That's how fast Tough Actin' Tenactin Pump Spray works. It stops the itching and burning of athlete's foot dead. The only leading brand so tough it prevents athlete's foot. Tackle athlete's foot symptoms in seconds with Tough Actin' Tenactin.
Welcome back to New York. So Courtney Brown, defensive end, Penn State, the first pick. It looks like his college teammate will be the second pick, LeVar Arrington. But we should explain that when you are back-to-back on the clock, as Washington is now, as the Jets will be later, you get 30 minutes. So in a rare invoking of the rules here at the draft, you get the full 30 minutes. And even if you make that your first of the two picks immediately, you get the complete 30 minutes. So it's Washington's half hour. 15 minutes of fame. In Washington, it's 30 minutes of fame. Our polls, 61%, I'm informed, say they should pick LeVar Arrington. And the Skins, Joe, as you know, always try to please the Redskins faithful.
With the second choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the Washington Redskins select LeVar Arrington, linebacker, Penn State.
Double teammates.
Chris, I think when you look at LeVar Arrington, you're talking about a situation with the Washington Redskins where you need desperately help at the outside linebacker positions. You need an attitude in the front seven that he will provide. I credit Vinny Serrato, Daniel Snyder for not playing games here and making Arrington the third pick, not creating a disharmony with negotiations early. Make LeVar Arrington the second pick overall. He deserves to be the second pick. He wanted to be a Washington Redskin all along. And I'll tell you what, when we look down the road 3 years from now, back on this draft, and you see a Lawrence Taylor Jr. Sahal type, LeVar Arrington playing for the Washington Redskins, maybe developing and being the factor behind the Redskins, maybe representing the NFC in the Super Bowl this year. What a pick this could be.
We talked about the nastiness of an attitude. You said Courtney Brown may have to develop it. When you have a young man like Arrington, he's a guy, there you see him coming out. He's a guy who's just really excited to be a Washington Redskin. He's coming to an organization that is bound and determined to build themselves a championship right now. That with the signings they've had to be around a Bruce Smith, you almost have a situation where you get like Leonard Marshall and Lawrence Taylor were when you have an Arrington and a Bruce Smith playing next to one another. The thing that he's going to have to do is he's going to have to learn to play a bit more disciplined in this defense. He does have the opportunity to have someone like a Mark Carrier behind him and a Sam Shade, veterans as safeties, so he will be able to be cut loose and go after the quarterback. The Redskins wanted a playmaker on defense. They got one.
Joe, you were right. They did get a great linebacker, and I'll tell you what, you see LeVar Arrington bouncing around, the attitude, the emotion. I tell you, he gets you fired up. There's no question about that. Look at the size, 6'3", 250, chiseled frame, tremendous speed and athleticism. You see all the production, the block kicks, the LeVar leap. Remember, this is a guy who was a great running back in high school, scored 72 touchdowns at the prep level, was recruited in terms of basketball by the likes of Georgetown, UMass, and North Carolina. So the athleticism that he had at the high school level translated into all those sacks with the Nittany Lions of Penn State. You see him here. Watch this play. The LeVar leap into the backfield to nail the running back for a tackle for a loss. An incredible play here against Purdue. He got after Drew Brees, as Courtney Brown did that afternoon. Here against Pittsburgh, this is late in the game. The LeVar leap again. blocking the field goal, and you see intimidation in his game, not just on a game basis in the big games, every week and every time he puts on those pads, he goes about his business in a very workmanlike, very serious manner. Here he drew a penalty flag, took a seat on the sidelines for a while, but when you look at LeVar Arrington, that's what he brings you, that attitude and the emotion and a passion for the game that really, I think, in this draft, you guys, is second to none. I think you see here the causing the interception. This is the A&M game where Jerry Sandusky, defensive coordinator, his last game, LeVar Arrington, Courtney Brown set out to win one for Jerry Sandusky. They shut out the Aggies of Texas A&M. Arrington was the key guy there. And for me, I tell you, it wasn't hard to say, okay, who's the best player in this draft? In my opinion, there's no doubt LeVar Arrington is that player.
So what a proud moment, of course, for Penn State. Now, a few years ago, we had 1-3 go in the draft at the top of the at the 97 draft when Orlando Pace and Sean Springs went 1-3 from Ohio State. But as far as 1-2, that's a different story. It's only happened twice. In 1984, Irving Fryer was selected by the Patriots, Dean Steinkuhler on the offensive line by the then Houston Oilers. 1967, Bubba Smith selected 1 by the Baltimore Colts. Clint Jones from Michigan State selected 2 by the Minnesota Vikings. Since the common draft, this now is only the 3rd time that college teammates have gone 1-2. It's not often that the Washington Redskins or any team that has serious Super Bowl aspirations get to pick not only once, but twice this high in any draft. So 2 and 3 puts them in a position where, well, their young owner, Daniel Snyder, feels they have a distinct Super Bowl possibility. Ed Werder is in Washington, and it's got to be excitement, Ed.
Yeah, in fact, it was interesting. All along they've maintained that Courtney Brown and LeVar Arrington didn't make any difference to them which one was left. But when the Browns chose Brown and left Arrington for the Redskins, there was not raucous celebration in the Redskins war room, but there was certainly a definite reaction. They were very happy that LeVar Arrington was left for them. There was no real drama in who they wanted. They wanted Arrington all along, and then the only difference was whether he'd be the 2nd pick or the 3rd. I think they were pretty enlightened about the fact that they didn't want to start what they view as a long partnership with a potentially great player off on an acrimonious note by putting him for negotiating purposes behind an offensive lineman like Chris Samuels and in front of a Bengals pick for negotiating tactic purposes. I think they got some assurances that this will not be an acrimonious contract negotiation, that there will be an understanding he'll be in camp on time, Mike, and then also that he will accept deferred money as part of his signing bonus.
Ed, that is all important down the line to LeVar Arrington, but right now the important thing is being selected and being with family. I've never seen a larger family turnout at the draft. What do you have, 30 people here?
About close to 40. Yeah, it's a lot.
For you, what is this moment like? You thought about it all night, and there was some talk you might be number 3, you might be number 2. Did it matter? Did it send a message from Washington to you that you were the guy they really wanted since they took you number 2?
Well, I think they really want me and Chris, but I really just feel like, you know, we've been in close contact through the whole process, and I mean, you know, it's just I think we developed a great relationship before the draft even came around, so I was pretty confident that that things would go this way.
All right, a chat with you at NFL.com, ESPN.com, Draft Central. We'll visit with you a little bit later. You have some family to hug and some people to talk to on the computer.
Can I just say one thing? I have a whole lot of family at home in Pittsburgh. Grandma, I know you wanted to be here. I love y'all. Hey, we did it. We're going to get it done. All right, and peace to all my people in Pittsburgh.
Why don't you throw it to Chris Berman since you're taking over the show?
Hey, hey, Chris, we're going to give it back to you.
Unbelievable. Go ahead, bro.
He's already auditioning.
You know what they said is he's infectious. We met him yesterday for 5-10 minutes. It is infectious, and he's already learned something about this business. The value of what we call a segue. That means moving seamlessly from one subject to another subject. He wanted to welcome his family members who couldn't make the trek here to New York. Family values at the top of the charts when we look at LeVar Arrington in the crosshairs.
In the crosshairs.
I'm LeVar Arrington, a linebacker from Penn State.
The influence of my father growing up, you know, he went to Nam, and he raised me and my 2 brothers on yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, discipline. He ended up losing both his legs because his feet got caught in the tank tread. To know that your father, you know, almost died on the battlefield is, You know, it's kind of moving and humbling. My father was a great athlete too, so one day, you know, he's a great athlete, great person, and the next, he can't be a great athlete anymore because, you know, he can't run. For as long as it took for me to understand, you know, what my father really went through, I think is a testimony of the way my father deals with life. You know, I run for my father. You know, I look at it that way, but I run for my father. Me and my mother are pretty much exact clones. Like, we bump heads. We're so much alike. She's something else. She's a strong woman. She's a school teacher in the inner city. And she takes kids that in most cases wouldn't have a chance to succeed in life, and she gives them the training that they need so that they can have that chance and equal opportunity to be successful in life. I really adore my mother for day in and day out working with these kids. And I adored her so much and I admired her so much that was the major I took up in college. So in one aspect, I love to be like my father, and in another aspect, I love to be like my mother.
LeVar Arrington.
I should add this about LeVar. Yesterday, they were looking at that piece and some other pieces of Courtney Brown, et cetera, that you'll see later on in this program. They were in the truck, and really, you know, these kids don't have a chance to get in a TV truck that often, and they were interested in it. And he said, wait a minute. So I got to go to probably Washington when they draft me. Can we come back to New York day 2 to host that with Mike Tirico? And I think he's already put on his dibs. He wants to be day 2 with Mike and Mel. Joe, you and I are out of work.
We're out of work.
How did Washington get to pick 2 and get to pick 3 after they won the NFC East for the first time since the Joe Gibbs years? Well, they got this pick, of course, last year when they were the big dealers in the Ricky Williams trade that allowed the Saints to move up to take Ricky Williams, and essentially they got to move into this spot. That's the Saints pick. The third pick, which is on the clock now, is San Francisco's pick, but what they did was trade 12 and 24, or 4 and 5 for San Francisco to move up here. So that's how, courtesy of the NFC West, the NFC East chance, the Washington Redskins try to further distance themselves in their division. This is Chris Samuels. He should be next. We'll tell you if he is. We'll back.
What do you get when you cross a talking snowman, popular teenage killers, and a man-eating monster? Multimax from Cinemax. 3 big channels packed with entertainment. This month, Max fires up hip movies, intense thrillers, non-stop action, and an all-star first-on-Max crime comedy. And on More Max, catch a different classic every day at 4. Trendy Vanguards on Tuesdays, and a double feature on Sundays. Ta-da! Call 1-800-547-4DTV to order Multimax today.
They say one's cows are mad. A monstrous slur. They say one's dentistry is diabolical. Looks fine to me. But there's one thing they say which is absolutely bang on. One's television is brilliant.
If one wants the best of British television on BBC America, one gets the Total Choice package on DirecTV. Visit www.directtv.com.
One wants one's BBC.
That'll be on DirecTV, madam.
Quite.
Excited for the new NFL season? Then check out a goldmine of NFL action on ESPN Classic. It's the NFL Films treasure chest. We're digging up 9 straight hours of NFL nirvana. From classic gridiron greats to battles in the trenches. No one ever took you closer to the game than NFL Films.
They're killing me, Whitey. They're killing me.
The NFL Films treasure chest, Saturday, April 22nd at 9, only on ESPN Classic. To get ESPN Classic, call 1-800-CLASSIC today.
Here looking live now, that's the ESPN zone. Some of the current NFL players. Tony Gonzalez, a #1 draft pick a couple of years ago, and a Pro Bowler. There's a #1 draft pick a year ago, Damian Woody with the Patriots. And that's some NFL players who are chatting now at the ESPN zone, so you can get on the computer if you know how to do that. Some of us don't, so we rely on television.
I figured out how to do it. I can do that now.
The Washington Redskins. Yeah. This is a team that won the NFC East for the first time since Joe Gibbs. Right. This is a team that almost beat Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay, who then almost beat St. Louis in St. Louis. Therefore, if you do a little math, you figure they're not that far away, perhaps, from the Super Bowl. However, this was a team, Joe, that was in some serious turmoil for a lot of reasons. But they go out, and at the end of the season, they add Bruce Smith, future Hall of Famer, who can certainly still play, who may have had his best game of the year, by the way, in the playoff game you did against Tennessee. Right. They had Jeff George to back up Brad Johnson, who had a 4,000-yard season. You see anything that they've done to deter them from that path?
I think, first of all, you have to give an awful lot of credit to Daniel Snyder. Here is a guy who's taken his aggressiveness from the business world and brought it into the world of professional football. And you say to yourself, how can a young man who's been a fan so much be able to do so many things? Vinny Serrato, as general manager, has done a terrific job of spreading the money out, so they're really not going to get jammed when it comes to a cap. This football team is not looking to be just victorious in the year 2000. They're looking ahead. That's why when you look at a Chris Samuels possibly, or a LeVar Arrington, and you bring in a Bruce Smith, a Mark Carrier to go along with Sam Shade at the safety position, and then you have a Brad Johnson, whom they brought in last year, which really was the key for Norv Turner to get his offense going. Now you add Jeff George, because you have to have two quarterbacks in this league if you're going to be successful. This football team has postured itself not just to be successful now, but down the road as well. You got to like what Daniel Snyder has brought to this football team. It's exciting to be a Washington Redskin fan again.
Well, and to bring it back to the glory days of the Redskins, of which you had something to do with and which you know a little bit about, I think the guys up front, known as the Hogs, were pretty important in the success of the Redskins.
Just a little bit.
And here's one Y2K style, Mel.
It really is. When you look at Chris Samuels and see how he compares to the other great offensive tackles over the years, or of course we're looking at Tony Baselli, Jonathan Ogden, Orlando Pace, their grades. Samuels cut below those three, in my opinion. I think you wouldn't categorize Samuels right now as a destroyer in run-blocking situations. He did start 42 consecutive games at Alabama. Then, of course, the knee injury late, missed the Orange Bowl, arthroscopic surgery. He's back to 100% right now from the injury. I think when you look at Samuels, outstanding pass blocker. He's not 305 anymore. He's 6'5", 322 right now. You see the size now up to 325. When you look at Chris Samuels, we talked about the pass blocking ability. We're talking about a natural left tackle with great feet. Here's against Alex Brown, who's an outstanding pass rusher at Florida, keeping him at bay. And remember, he's going to be protecting the blind side of Brad Johnson. Andy Heck also in the mix, but the blind side protection of Brad Johnson, who's had some durability problems in the past, he is going to be a key guy. And that's why the Redskins, third pick overall, you elevate because of need at that left tackle position. Chris Samuels, I think, will not be asked maybe right away to be the starter, but it won't take long before he is in that lineup. Andy Heck, kind of insurance. Here again, Alex Brown. See the natural feet and balance and technique that he has, the experience with all those starts, 42 consecutive starts before the knee injury.
The other thing, too, Bo, if you get a Chris Samuel and a LeVar Arrington, there's two young guys who work against each other an awful lot and get better as they grow.
So what are you telling me, that Chris Samuels is going to have a day off when he plays a game on Sunday? Well, you know, in our .com poll, where you fans are participating today, 40% say they like Chris Samuels as the pick here. 40% say they should go wide receiver and the mercurial Peter Warrick. Or not quite mercurial, which is why he may not be the #1 pick. Well, the fans, the 40%, one of you were right. Let's go to the commissioner.
With the third choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the Washington Redskins select Chris Samuels, tackle, University of Alabama. The Cincinnati Bengals are now on the clock.
Young man from Mobile, Alabama, Chris Samuels. So he becomes the Hogs of the new generation, Joe. And you know, the names Jacoby, Grimm, except of course Grimm was a guard.
And actually, as a matter of fact, is the offensive line coach now for the Washington Redskins, Russ Grimm. So he's done a wonderful job with that offensive line. We mentioned Andy Heck being brought in. Andy Heck was re-signed at the left tackle position. It gives Chris Samuels an opportunity to work his way in. You don't necessarily want to throw somebody into the position. It's great to have the latitude to work him in. The Redskins now have got some depth in that offensive line. It helps them an awful lot. This is a football team that is just not built, as I said, for today, but they're building for the future with the two young draft choices that they've made.
What a proud moment for Chris and his family. You know, these guys, I think we forget sometimes, because everybody is so scrutinized publicly, that these are young men who have worked for this position. And try and put yourself at home in their footsteps, in their shoes, in their mom and dad or grandparents or brothers and sisters' shoes. Try to understand some of the emotions that go with this day. I think we forget that sometimes as we look Well, there's the family, and of course we had a glimpse, or we'll have a glimpse, in the war room as well, with the Washington Redskins headquarters, and it's right, Joe. I mean, it's such an exciting day. It's a culmination of what you worked for thus far.
It really is. And again, it's when the front office and the coaching staff and all the scouts work so hard to find the right people that fit into not only your system, but also the needs of your football team. And that's exactly what the Redskins as an organization have done. They work very hard. You'll see as we gave you shots of the war room, Vinny Serrato on the left, Daniel Snyder on the right with their jackets off, Norv Turner very relaxed, sitting back, Foge Fazio, the new linebacker coach, Ray Rhodes, the new defensive coordinator, all very comfortable with the choices. And after this pick, they're pretty much done for quite a while now. The Redskins get to relax and sit back and really enjoy and watch the draft like everyone else.
Knowing that they got guys that probably will be in the starting lineup immediately. By the way, Anthony Munoz in 1980 was picked in the number 3 overall pick. That worked out pretty well for the Bengals. Some other picks since that time have not, which is our perfect segue to the Cincinnati Bengals. Once again, are picking early. Peter Warrick is on the phone. Is the suspense over this quickly? We'll be back.
Taco Bell introduces wild chalupas and wild gorditas.
Ay, caramba.
It's your favorite chalupas and gorditas covered with our hot and spicy wild sauce.
Caliente.
A chunky, zesty blend of peppers, chilies, and other good stuff that'll really crank up the heat. Just 99 cents for a limited time.
Excuse me.
And make sure you pick up a drink. Only at Taco Bell.
Be careful with it. What is going on? There you go. There it is, guys. That's great. Hold on a second. What are you doing? Okay. Oh my God. Yeah. Who's first?
Senators, Maple Leafs, tonight at 7 on ESPN.
ESPN's presentation of the NFL Draft is brought to you by Alta Vista. Smart is beautiful. And by Taco Bell.
Last night, a lot of these top draft picks had a chance to sample the zone burgers and other delights at the ESPN zone, where we come from every Monday night and Monday Night Football.
I had dinner there last night, too.
Well, Norv Turner and the Redskins are now, as Joe mentions, barring a trade, off until the 64th overall pick. They have no second. They got a third-round pick that's pretty high. But Norv and the guys can relax a little bit, so they're beaming. They're with Ed Werder right now, with the coach of the NFC East Division champs. Ed?
Well, Chris, and teams that win the Division one year are not supposed to pick second and third the next spring. That's not the way it's designed. It's almost unfair. You look at the War Room, and they were very excited when they made their 2 picks, and they got LeVar Arrington and Chris Samuels. Norv, did both of these guys come in right away and become starters for your team?
Well, that's certainly when you pick players there, that's what you hope to have happen. That's what we plan to have happen. We had it happen a year ago with our first 2 picks, Champ Bailey, John Jansen. We hope we can have it happen again.
Since LeVar Arrington can rush the passer, is that the area where he'll give you the most help initially, and does that reduce the learning curve for a rookie?
Well, I think we looked at LeVar and felt he's capable of coming in and playing linebacker, rushing the passer, covering, doing whatever we want him to do. When you look at the 2 guys, that's why our War Room looked like it did. It's really hard to please an entire room. But in a half-hour period, we pleased the defensive staff with Arrington and then turned right around and pleased the offensive staff getting Chris Samuels.
Now, you were in the wide receiver chase in the free agent market. You went after Joey Galloway to a point. You were interested to some degree in Keyshawn Johnson. Was Peter Warrick a consideration at all instead of Samuels, Or do you look at it like we've got an immobile quarterback who's been injury-prone in his career? We got to get the left tackle.
Well, I think Peter Warrick was a consideration for everyone. You know, we felt we did what was best for our football team, and we feel we've got two great players.
What expectations for the Redskins now on the basis of what you accomplished last year and what you've done here today?
Oh, hey, we've got lofty expectations. We think we're going to be a real good football team. The coach will come out of me. We have a lot of work to do.
All right, let's go back to New York and Chris.
All right, Ed, thank you. When we saw Norv Turner in the offseason last year, he goes, shh, don't let our secret out. We think we're pretty good. Well, secret's long out this year, that's for sure. And by the way, number 56, outside linebacker. Is that a
Chris,
Joe?
don't look at me, Chris. I've seen enough 56s. I'm glad to see somebody like that wear one, though.
And now, as the Skins will revel in their picks, the Cincinnati Bengals, who for the 6th time in the last 9 years own a pick in the top 6. A team that had the worst record in the 1990s, which is why perhaps they gave them a bye in week number 1 so they'd have an extra week to get over a decade of horrible football and move on to perhaps new strong football. They're moving into a new stadium, Paul Brown Stadium. They hope that this is the start of a new era. And if they want some excitement, they drafted Achilles Smith, quarterback, 1st round last year, very high. You might as well get him someone to throw the ball to. And with Carl Pickens' return question, and with running back Corey Dillon's return questionable, why not get the most exciting player in the draft, which is why this card is going to the podium.
It's there.
Right?
With the 4th choice in the NFL Draft 2000, Cincinnati Bengals select Peter Warrick, wide receiver, Florida State. Baltimore Ravens are now on the clock with a choice obtained from Atlanta.
Well, we can't say we're very surprised here, and he could have been number 1, but as we try to point out, he can be part of the solution to what's been a decade of problem, Mel.
Well, if you have Achilles Smith, you need that big-time weapon, and Peter Warrick could be that type of player. Certainly doesn't have the size or the speed of a Randy Moss, but he is tremendously creative with his hands on the football. You look at Peter Warrick in game situations, has tremendous moves, tremendous explosiveness. See the size there, about 5'10 and a half, only 4'6 speed. That was the concern. That's why he dropped the 4 when you actually factor in off the field concerns. But look at Peter Warrick here. The ability to make the tough reception, the great hands. This is a Louisiana Tech game, season opener. You see Barry Sanders types moves in the broken field here, reversing his field, changing direction, taking it all the way in for a touchdown. That was a close game up until that point. The game 14-7. They rolled in the second half. You see the ability on the short routes to take it the distance. Get his hands on the football, and he will make the difference. I think that's what Peter Warrick has. He's a former quarterback at the prep level, so you see the athleticism. Look at those moves. You don't see that in a lot of wide receivers who are more straight line. This guy's tremendous east and west and knows how to get the ball into the end zone. Look at the ability on the deep route to adjust and the concentration. This is against Virginia Tech, national championship game. Sugar Bowl. This is another punt return. Same game, Virginia Tech. He again takes it all the way for the touchdown. There's a reason why I call Peter Warrick a touchdown maker. LeVar Arrington, a touchdown preventer. This guy gets the ball in the end zone. We talked about his ability as a quarterback in high school. They're throwing the touchdown pass to Ron Dugans. They're out of the shotgun, running with the football again, this time against the Florida Gators. Joe, I'll tell you what, he is a multi-dimensional wide receiver.
Not only does he have the different dimensions of a wide receiver. You know, there was another guy we talked about in this draft by the name of, I think it was Jerry Rice, who wasn't necessarily very fast. Just turned out to be the best in the game ever. But the way I can project him into Cincinnati, you have Carl Pickens as your possession receiver, Darnay Scott as a guy who can go down the field. Peter Warrick becomes the perfect fit for Bruce Coslett and Ken Anderson as the guy that they can use as the move guy. And you mentioned it, Mel. He is a touchdown maker. He knows how to get in the end zone. He doesn't have to be that fast, but when he gets his hands on the ball, he can make people miss and he can make plays. It's an excellent choice for Cincinnati here.
We should say something else. I think everyone should root for every kid. Everybody wants these players to succeed. Everyone knows it's well chronicled that he had a little problem this past year with a shoplifting incident, okay? I mean, that's common knowledge. But I asked around the league to people who I really trust, and I got the same answer. They're not apologizing. They say, that's not baggage, that's college. Everyone you talk to says he's a good kid. He made a mistake like that. This is not a major mistake. We think he's great character. And I got that repeatedly around the league, so that should be stated for record. Mike Tirico, Chris Mortensen, the Bengals have spoken.
Chris, thanks. You talked to his Florida State teammates, and they swear by the guy as well. You saw on the Draft Central, ESPN.com, NFL.com poll, some people thought Washington should have taken Warwick as opposed to Chris Samuels. Why Warwick sliding, quote-unquote, sliding to 4?
Well, you think about what the Redskins did. We alluded to this earlier. They took Desmond Howard once with the fourth pick. That was a bust. They took Michael Westbrook with the 4th pick. That's starting to get some results, but that pretty much is it in NFL draft history. Receivers taken on the top 5. It's about a 50-50 proposition for the Redskins, and they really needed their left tackle, and that's what they did. Chris Samuels out works with the Bengals. They're happy, I'm sure.
Interesting how so many of those guys tie into today. Keyshawn Johnson, of course, the Jets trade will be the story in the next hour, and Irving Fryer, he and Dean Steinkuhler in '84, the last teammates taken 1-2 in a draft. Let's fire up our Tenactin video conference and bring in the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals. That's Bruce Coslett. Coach, we'll ask you first off, did you get many phone calls and entertain any thoughts of trading that 4th overall pick that you just used for Peter?
Well, we got a few phone calls, but really with a player of this caliber, we didn't entertain. They weren't that enticing, but we got a heck of a football player. Can you hear me?
Bruce, do you hear us? Apparently we're having some
fine.
problems hearing Bruce. He does hear us okay, so
well,
I'll let you continue on then, Bruce, assuming that the folks at home are hearing. You have Carl Pickens. Is there a trade, I don't want to say imminent, but is that in the plans now that you've brought in Peter Warwick?
I can't tell you what's going to happen in the future, but now I have a good problem. I got 3 of them that can play, and we can put all 3 on the field, just much like Minnesota did when they got Randy Moss. And, you saw what St. Louis did to the whole league with their 3 wide receivers this year. So, that didn't really enter into it, what our other players. We just took the best, who we felt was the best player and an exciting player. And like Theismann just said, the fun doesn't start until he catches the ball.
And you've got a guy to throw him the ball from last year's drafted Achille. In your perfect world, would Corey Dillon, Warwick, Achille, all your weapons, including Pickens, Darnay Scott, all line up for you when the season gets started?
I sure hope so. And the other thing, it's the first time in several years here that we've had our offensive line coming back intact. So we should be able to move the football.
All right, Bruce, thanks. We'll talk to you during the weekend. Appreciate it.
Okay, Mike. Bye.
Bruce Coslett, head coach of the Bengals. The 5 spot comes up next. That belongs to Baltimore. Remember, you can get online at ESPN.com, NFL.com, Draft Central. Who do you think the Ravens should take at number 5, or perhaps a trade? Our draft coverage continues from around the league after this.
I wouldn't.
What?
I just wouldn't.
Wouldn't what?
Wouldn't do what you're doing.
I'm buying a patio set. What's wrong with buying a patio set?
There are people in there, my friend. People you don't know. Some good, some not so good. You want to give them your charge card?
I'm not worried.
You're not worried?
I've got people in there, too.
Chevy Blazer. A little security in an insecure world. Blazer, like a rock.
Welcome back to New York. 1 hour into the draft, and every hour we'll update you on what's been going on. So if you do tune away for a while or you're outside doing something, come on back in. Every hour we'll get you updated. The headlines of this draft so far. Penn State teammates go 1 and 2 with Courtney Brown and LeVar Arrington being taken with the top 2 picks by Cleveland and Washington, respectively. A new hog joins the Redskins and Arrington as a teammate, as Samuels is taken from Alabama and off to Washington. And a new man to throw it to for Cincinnati at the number 4 spot. The Bengals end up taking Peter Warrick. Now the 5 spot, Baltimore. As we've been handicapping, this could be the hot spot of this draft. Let's go to Ravens headquarters and bring in Solomon Wilcox. Sol.
Yeah, Mike, you're right. The number 5 spot has been the hot spot. Many teams inquiring with the Baltimore Ravens about possibly moving up to the number 5 spot. Of course, this morning, Baltimore signed defensive tackle Sam Adams. He was at the airport on his way to Green Bay, but they were able to get a deal in principle with Sam Adams. Now they're looking to trade out of the number 5 spot. I'm told that there are some teams that have called this morning, particularly one team that they have not disclosed. They do have a pick in the top 10, and they're looking to trade to move up to the number 5 spot. Of course, there are many teams who are looking to try to get Florida State's defensive tackle, Corey Simon. For more on the Philadelphia Eagles and how it may affect them at number 6, let's go to Sal Palantonio.
Well, you're right, Solomon. There's definitely a domino effect, but what happens in Baltimore at number 5 will definitely impact what the Eagles do at number 6. I talked to Andy Reid on and off this morning, and he's entertaining trade calls from a number of teams. The Green Bay Packers, the Chicago Bears are now interested in moving up from number 9 to number 6, perhaps to get either Plexico Burress or Thomas Jones, the running back. Let's go back to Chris Berman in New York.
All right, Sal and Solomon, very busy along I-95, that's for sure. This pick, by the way, from Baltimore came last year when Atlanta moved up. And in the second round, opted for a tight end, Reggie Kelly. He really didn't do much, at least not in season number 1. And Baltimore got the pick from Atlanta, which last year they were the defending NFC champs. This year was great because they're one of the worst teams. So Baltimore made out very well. You heard the names. Who should this spot go to, Mel?
I think when you look at it, Chris, we talked about guys like Brian Urlacher, Plaxico Burress, Corey Simon. Those are the guys you might want to move up to get. I think when you look at the running backs, Thomas Jones, Sean Alexander, the all-around ability to not only run with the football, but catch it very well. I think this is where you see the run-on running backs because you have Jones, Arizona's always looked at. Chicago evidently had an interest. Alexander kind of the wild card. Could he drop into the middle of the first? Then you have Jamal Lewis and Ron Dane. Very interesting backs. Jamal Lewis had that major knee injury in '98, then a little injured this past year. If he reverts back to '97 form when he was the top game breaker in the SEC, you could hit the jackpot. Ron Dane, if he keeps that weight at an optimum level, tremendously productive between the tackles. Needs to improve his ability catching the football. Only 1 reception last year, but all 4 of these backs, particularly Jones, Lewis, and Dane, all figure in the top 11 overall.
See, the other thing, Mel, too, besides that, the thing you have to understand with Baltimore is they have 2 very specific needs on offense. One is in the running back position. The other is at wide receiver. Brian Billick feels like if he can fill those 2 areas somehow, way, shape, or form, he's going to wind up with the complement he wants on the offense. He's settled in at Tony Banks at the quarterback spot. He's got Trent Dilfer now as his backup. So he feels good with his quarterbacks, and he's going to have an opportunity to fill in the running back and the wide receiver to complement what he did and get an offense that looks similar to what he had in Minnesota when they scored the most points in the history of the game.
Well, the quarterback, unproven. It's a question mark. Both guys have looked great at times, Banks and Dilfer. We'll see. Both quarterbacks enjoy that they will be throwing to, off a shoulder injury, Shannon Sharp. Former Bronco, now a Baltimore Raven. But at wide receiver, behind Peter Warrick, there are 2 names we should jump on immediately, Mel.
Yeah, 2 good ones, Chris. And there's a little bit of a separation. You have great depth at the position. We look at Travis Taylor. We talked about route running, very polished, very consistent player. A little injured this past year, but if you go back to '98, culminated with an MVP performance against Syracuse in the Orange Bowl. Look at Plaxico Burress, 6'5 plus, 230 pounds, tremendously competitive, very tough. Talk about route running, the digs, he needs to improve in those areas, but a guy that really is very similar to Keyshawn Johnson. Not only size, but good hands. Remember, he dropped some passes early this past year, but he had a jammed thumb. He didn't tell anybody. Nick Saban, the trainer, played through it, got better, had a great game against Florida in the Citrus Bowl, and also a great downfield blocker, just like Keyshawn Johnson.
Well, Mort, about 3 minutes left, a little bit less than that for the Ravens. Obviously, they're burning up the phone lines right now. Everybody has their number, don't they?
No question about it. And, as it's already been defined, the Ravens are targeting a running back. That running back's Jamal Lewis of Tennessee. They can get him later. But it's who these teams are calling about, I think, is the intrigue here. Hey, the New York Jets, are they calling for Plaxico Burress? I think so. Green Bay Packers, are they calling for Corey Simon? Maybe not. Maybe it's Brian Urlacher, the New Mexico linebacker. We might have a surprise here in this 5 and 6 range. And then Thomas Jones, the running back from Virginia. There's some people that like him as well, Chris.
Well, we about 2 minutes left on the clock here for the Baltimore Ravens, who have picked 5 and who have picked 10, and who finished the year very strongly in a division that admittedly contains the 2 teams that met in the AFC Championship game, the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if you want to compete, you got to push the envelope in this division.
Well, the other thing, too, Chris, is Brian Billick has been very busy making moves. Don't forget, that 10 spot that he has now was Denver's, and that's really where he feels like he's going to be able to get who he wants. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a trade.
The card is up. I think the card is up. They have about a minute to go, but Baltimore has, well, is it Simon? Is it the running back? Is it the wide receiver? Is it a trade? I know it's one of those 4.
Gee, you know, Chris, nothing gets by you.
Fifth choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the Baltimore Ravens select Jamal Lewis, running back, University of Tennessee.
So you know what? We kind of had this pegged. My question to you, Jamal Lewis is a wonderful, wonderful player. But yet this coming fall, and I know you don't pick for 1 year, you may not have the Jamal Lewis in 2000 that you're going to have in 2001. He's coming off serious injury.
Chris, he's that roll of the dice that we talked about this early. You talk about the 5th pick. If he reverts back to that great form of 97 when he averaged that 6 yards a carry, the next year, 98, he was averaging 6.8 yards a carry until the major knee injury, 5th game of the season. You look at Jamal Lewis, you see size. He's been anywhere between 230 and 240, the career average, all the touchdowns, 3rd in school history. You see a guy who can break tackles. I think that's what Brian Billick's looking for. A Robert Smith type combines power with athleticism. You see that ability here, number 31, taking it into the end zone, taking the handoff here from Peyton Manning, the spin move, that athleticism a la Robert Smith, then the ability to take it the distance, the touchdown runs, the game-breaking ability. And when you talk about a guy who can break an arm tackle, that's Jamal Lewis. Now, this is all best-case scenario. This past year, he didn't necessarily have the elusiveness and the change of direction he did in 97 and early in 98 before the major knee injury, then the ankle and shoulder problems this past year. Actually, 4.5-yard average per carry this past season, the lowest of his career. But I think you're rolling the dice here that he reverts back to that 97-98 form. If he does, Joe, they could have a real game breaker and a big-time all-around back.
Let me just ask you real quick. If Jamal Lewis was healthy, would you say he would have been the #1 draft choice, in your opinion,
of the running backs?
He would have been the #1 running back, which he is right now.
But I think it's a good move. I really think it's a good move, and this is why. History has proven itself that the 2nd year back from knee injury is when athletes really start to gain their strength back. I think in the case of Jamal Lewis, this is the 2nd year after the knee injury. We're going to see a lot more from him than we saw at Tennessee. Also, they feel like he has the best hands. He catches the ball everywhere, and that's very important for Brian Billick in his offense.
Productive. When he is 100%, and that first year you mentioned, Mel and Joe, in 97, he averaged 5.9 yards a carry. That's his first year in big-time college ball. Now he's in big-time NFL ball. But guys who are really dialed in on our college team, we welcome 2 more of our compatriots who once a year we get to work with, and we're pleased to go up to our studios in Bristol and join our college mavens, Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. He was a wonderful player before the knee injury.
It was great to be a Maven. Thank you, Chris. He was. His first start in college, 155 yards rushing for Tennessee against Ole Miss. He was a star from really the first time he took a handoff in practice. Peyton Manning said, I know this guy's going to be a great back. Kirk, he's got to come back mentally, not just physically from that injury. He did not have a great junior season at times.
I think if you go back last year and look at the times that he got into the game, I think you do have to look and wonder, was he back 100%? You just heard a lot of people talking about that thing. The thing that bothers me and concerns me a little bit, last year I think at times maybe saving himself, getting himself prepared for the next level. It's great. It's worked out today. And you got to make sure he gets back to 100% and show that he's got the heart to get it done.
Tennessee coaches see a lot of great athletes come through that program. They'll tell you, though, privately, this guy is a freak. Even by the high standards of Tennessee, when he is healthy, he is a rare back. This certainly justifies his decision to come out as a junior, drafted 05 overall by the Ravens. Eagles are on the clock as the NFL draft coverage continues from New York.
90 years ago, fans thrilled to the exploits of baseball's power hitters, who belted as many as 9, 10, or even 12 homers a season.
The game has changed, and so has the way we watch it with MLB Extra Innings on DirecTV Sports. Call 1-800-GET-SPORTS and catch the 2000 MLB Extra Innings season for just $129. This year, one of these guys could hit number 12 by May 12th. Be there with MLB Extra Innings.
It takes a big man to take on Lennox Lewis, the heavyweight champion of the world. In fact, it takes a bigger man. A man so big, he can only be the undefeated challenger, Michael Grant. And this town's not big enough for both of them. Lewis versus Grant, April 29th, live on Direct Ticket. Lennox Lewis versus Michael Grant, live on Direct Ticket pay-per-view on Channel 101. Can Grant cut Lewis down to size?
Top guns on the senior tour take aim for a duel in the desert. Will Hale Irwin stand up to the heat, or will one of these other marksmen steal the day? The Las Vegas Senior Classic, Friday at 3 on ESPN.
Baseball's ultimate road trip heads to San Fran, where high-powered hitters take aim. Luis Gonzalez and the D-backs swing with Barry Bonds and the Giants. The ultimate road trip rolls on. Diamondbacks Giants tomorrow at 8 on ESPN.
Back in New York, a gamble maybe. Baltimore doesn't think so. Jamal Lewis, running back. Tennessee going to the Baltimore Ravens with their first of 2 picks in the top 10. The wisdom of Solomon. Solomon Wilcots is with Coach Brian Billick. Solomon.
Thank you, Chris. And Coach, yesterday when we talked, you said that the ability to run the ball in the red zone was crucial to an offense. Why did you choose to take Lewis over, say, Alexander or Dane, for instance?
Well, they're all outstanding backs, but Jamal Lewis combines that rare combination of sheer size and power with incredible speed, and that's a tough combination to come by. He can get us an explosive touchdown, and he can pound it in inside the red zone.
Now, Lewis had the injuries in college. Did you guys talk to the doctors before making the pick?
Our medical people cleared him 100%. We have no concerns with regards to repercussions to the prior injuries. Anybody you draft, you worry about possible injuries, but it won't be because of the prior injuries or any kind of history.
How close did you come to trading out of the 5 spot, hoping to get a running back a little bit later, say in the top 10?
Well, we were prepared to make this pick all along. Clearly, we were going to listen to offers. There was certain value that if it presented itself, and we felt like Jamal might still be there. Jamal was the key to our draft. Whether we got him at 5, whether we got him at 10, we felt we had a good chance either way. If we could get some value at 5, but it was going to be specific value, no one quite wanted to step to that level, so we're thrilled to have him at number 5.
You still have another pick in the first round at number 10. What do you plan to do with that?
Well, the great thing about having 5 and 10 is that we can bracket one around the other with some particular depth at both running back and receiver, which were prime needs for us. There's some other good players there, and we'll close in on here pretty soon.
All right, thanks, Coach. Now let's go out to Sal Palantonio.
Thanks, Solomon. In Philadelphia, the Eagles are on the clock with the number 6 pick. And Andy Reid, the head coach there, has an interesting dilemma. He's heard from 3 specific teams about a possible trade. The Chicago Bears have the 9th pick and have offered the number 39 in the 2nd round to move up. He's also heard in the last day or so from the Green Bay Packers a trade deal that would send a 14th pick, the 44th in the 2nd round, and a 4th round pick to perhaps move up to number 6 pick. What that player they're looking for there, they're not sure. He also has talked on and off to Bill Parcells of the New York Jets, but so far, Andy Reid has not heard Bill Parcells say that he would give up 2 first-rounders to go up to number 6. He's still holding out for that. He said, that's a deal I would definitely do. Let's go to Chris Berman in New York.
All right, Sal, thank you. Obviously, the chalk names, and they're great players, are the defensive tackle Corey Simon, who people in Philly have said he might be our best guy at that position since the late Jerome Brown. Might be wide receiver Travis Taylor, and in a West Coast offense, which Andy Reid is running with Donovan McNabb, that would be an addition. There is also, in addition to the trades that Sal mentioned, because people want to come up and get Burris, Philly will do Taylor over Burris, but not everybody. People would come up to get Plaxico. People would come up to get Simon. There is a major curveball brewing in this spot, especially if Philly moves a little bit. Just possible. You never know what the pitcher's going to throw, but this might go right down to the wire with trade calls and a bizarre name, although I think in the end, both Simon and Taylor would be wonderful fits with a team that was in the basement last year in the NFC East, but a team clearly on the move. And I might say one other thing. Last year we sat here and Philly drafted Donovan McNabb. They booed Andy Reid. They booed the Eagles immediately. Week 1, when he started Peterson and did not start Donovan McNabb, they booed Andy Reid for not starting him. He hadn't even coached the game, and Philly was booing him both ways. Goes to a Flyers game this winter after the season, standing ovation. They're very loyal in Philadelphia, and this is a team, guys, that's on the move. They will not be in the basement this year in the NFC East. That being said, we got 6 minutes to see what they do. We'll be back in New York with the 65th draft in just a moment.
I'm not very big, said the little blue engine, but we must get over the mountains before the children awake. Said all the dolls and toys. Then she said, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. She tugged and pulled and tugged, and slowly, slowly, they started off. Puff, puff, chug, chug, went the little blue engine. I think I can, 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 I think I can. Hooray, hooray, cried the funny little clown and all the dolls and toys. And the little blue engine smiled and seemed to say, as she puffed steadily down the mountain, I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I could, I thought I
could. Eyes of a puppy dog, lips made for sin. You're not dreaming, I'm for real. We got a call.
Hello.
Louis?
Yeah?
Louis?
Want to get away? Now you can. Fly Southwest Airlines coast to coast for $99 or less when you purchase tickets by May 3rd and travel Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday.
You are now free to move about the country.
After 6 weeks, how does the Dr. Scholl's Dynastep Sport insert feel?
Before I tried the inserts, I had shin splint pain. Now I don't.
It's clinically proven among athletes to provide immediate relief from lower body pain.
When I play basketball, my lower back is much, much better.
Treat yourself right at drscholls.com.
Americans love their high-performance Briggs & Stratton engines. That's why just about every neighborhood in America is a Briggs & Stratton neighborhood. Briggs & Stratton, the power that works for you.
Welcome back to New York for the 65th NFL Draft. Chris Berman, Joe Theismann, Mel Kiper, and a cast of thousands at all 31 teams, and at our studios in Bristol, and at our second set here. We've had some excitement, but now the wheels really start to turn. A little more than 3 minutes on the clock with Philadelphia, and Corey Simon was a guy who has been put in most of the publications, you know, for 2-3 months going to Philadelphia, but yet 4 or 5 shoulder surgeries, and that's holding people back a little on him this time, Mel?
Well, I think it's a durability question, Chris. At the conclusion of his prep career, Corey Simon had rotator cuff surgery. Then he redshirted in 95, then in 96, 3 games in, underwent season-ending shoulder surgery again at a neck strain next year. Over the last 2 years, though, he's been relatively healthy. Had 21 tackles for loss this past year, set an all-time record at Florida State. We know they've had a lot of great defensive linemen go through this program, like a Peter Boulware, like an Andre Wadsworth. So the durability question, in my opinion, is the only reason there will be any concern about taking Corey Simon at this spot. And we know this pick maybe represents a trade, and Corey Simon's a guy, Chris, with a 41-inch vertical jump at 300 pounds. That's amazing.
Well, they've also added defensively. They've added Grassmanis. They've added Brandenburg. The other thing you have to take into consideration, this team was 28th in the league last year, giving up rushing yards. They gave up 125 yards. So certainly you'd have to think that the defensive line is an area of concern for Andy. He's an offensive coach. Comes out of that West Coast offense. He's got his quarterback. He's got a good running back in Deuce Staley. You've got to figure they're going to have to be able to stop people, and I think the line's got to be a place that he's focusing.
One thing about the Eagles was they forced a lot of turnovers despite their horrible defensive ranking. They played hard every week. Now what do? Do they get a hard playing Corey Simon? Mort, what do you have on this?
Well, Andy Reid really worked hard on this one. He loves linemen, offensive linemen, defensive linemen. What he struggled with were the medical red flags on Corey Simon. He took him all week to get a comfort level with that. There were some teams that downgraded Simon because of the medical, including the medication he has taken at Florida State to play, a medication that may prevent him from taking anti-inflammatories like he, in fact, may need, Chris.
Well, as we have about 1:20 left on the clock with the Eagles, this again is a team in a division where now there is a definite favorite, Washington. But if you look at the rest of the division, Dallas is not Dallas, not the Dallas that we've known through the 90s. Arizona a year ago was coming off a playoff berth and win, but it's not that Arizona team. And the New York Football Giants are also not a formidable team. Any one of these teams may rise, but there is move to room in this division from the bottom, and if not all the way to the top, up a couple of spots.
Move to room.
Move to room. I got a view of the room, Joe. Well, you know why? Because this fan poll is fooling me here. I got to read .com and stuff, and the fan poll says 40% Corey Simon, 30% want Joe Theismann. Here's the commissioner.
With the sixth choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the Philadelphia Eagles select Corey Simon, defensive tackle, Florida State.
And let me add one little thing about this, Mel, before I go to you. In talking with Andy Reid late in the week, he said, I've got to be sure that with those shoulder surgeries, he can stop a train. If I pick him, you'll know that I'm sure that he can stop a train. I talked with him this morning. He says, I know he can stop a bus. I'm that far along. The train I'm still working on. The train got the pass. He's an Eagle.
I tell you, we talked about Corey Simon. We talked about quickness. Is it Warren Sapp-like? We could debate that. But his ball location skills are tremendous. He made responsible for 21 stops behind the line of scrimmage this past year. You see the productivity. And a guy who brings a great work ethic to your football team. This is against Florida. The quickness off the ball, getting in there, disrupting things. See the ability here to sense things. We talked about ball location, then the ability to close in a hurry. Watch the athletic ability. We're talking about a guy who was 300 pounds, yet had a 41-inch vertical jump. Watch him here. Double team, chase, close. That's against Joe Hamilton. Here again, talking about the ability of a Corey Simon athletically to play off and get after the running back and make the tackle. This is against Virginia. Watch this play. An interception. About zone blitz packages. He already has that down. He's done it all at Florida State. The only reason we're not talking about Corey Simon as a third, fourth pick, we're talking about a pick to the Philadelphia Eagles here, is because of the durability concerns, Joe.
If you look at Jim Johnson as the defensive coordinator, he likes to employ and use his defensive tackles in a lot of different ways. The other thing is, when you stop and think about injuries that occur to athletes, football players, very seldom do you hear problems with the shoulders. I mean, I know of offensive linemen, there's a lot of shoulder problems because of the jamming of the hands. But defensively, I can't really remember as I look back and think to myself, how many shoulder problems do defensive linemen incur? I think Andy Reid did an awful lot of research. He was happy with the results, and I don't think it's going to be a recurring problem. Of course, you know, here's a guy that's going to have to come in and probably play right away, so he better strap it on and be ready for a lot of trains, Boom.
Well, let me tell you something, Joe. He's not going to pitch for the Phillies. Shoulder problems come into play there.
That's right.
He's going to play defensive line, and they hope towards the fashion of a Jerome Brown. And that defensive line we will never forget in Philadelphia. And as someone who has his eye peeled on the Eagles year in and year out, as well he should, is up in our Bristol studios. Ron Jaworski with Mark Malone on this pick of Corey Simon. Guys?
All right, Boomer, thank you very much. And, of course, as you mentioned, Jaws very well connected in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. And this defense ranked 24th overall in the National Football League last year. You look at the defensive tackles, Mark Wheeler, Hollis Thomas, not particularly big guys. How has Corey Simon fit into their defensive scheme, Jaws?
Well, Jim Johnson, their defensive coordinator, loves to attack the line of scrimmage and attack the quarterback. And here's where Corey Simon fits in. You got a Hugh Douglas and a Mike Mamula, outside edge rushers. Quick pressure on the quarterback, quick penetration in the backfield in the running game. Now you have a guy like Corey Simon, and you look at Jerome Brown. That type of player can stop the run, but also what I love about Corey Simon, his ability to rush the quarterback. If you get the edge perimeter guys, now the rush up the middle, oh boy, it could be a very good defense.
You mentioned Jimmy Johnson, and of course I go back to the time he was a defensive coordinator with the Indianapolis Colts. They went to the AFC Championship game, had a great job on defense, moving people around. This is a risk-taking defense, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's attack the quarterback, attack the line of scrimmage, and create problems. This team, the Eagles, love to get after everyone. I mean everyone. The running game, the pass game, create turnovers. They were terrific in that department last year. And I know all along Andy Reid loved Corey Simon. This is the guy that he wanted to get. They got him. The big question he had was his health, and the Eagles went through an extensive physical examination, the bench presses, all those those things that are needed, they're happy they got their guy.
Well, certainly if they can stop some people and keep the scores down, they'll take a little pressure off of the young quarterback. Yep. Donovan McNabb. Well, we take a look now at Thomas Jones, the running back from Virginia, as he looks on the telephone. Will he go next? The Arizona Cardinals are on the clock now, and they're expected to take a running back. Draft 2000, coverage from New York. Back after this.
See Oscar De La Hoya in action. Enter the Metrex Total Knockout Sweepstakes. Visit participating GNC stores in April to get 20% off on all Metrex products. Plus, win an all-expense-paid trip to Los Angeles for Oscar De La Hoya's WBC fight, including airfare, hotel, and get $1,000 in cash. The 20% off Metrex and the Total Knockout Sweepstakes end soon. So come to GNC today.
The way that you walk, it's just the way that you talk, like it ain't no thing, and every single day is just a fling.
The long-standing battle between law enforcer and lawbreaker has undergone a revolution. Trace the history of today's crime-fighting techniques, from walking the beat to cruising with speed and technology, dusting for fingerprints to analyzing DNA, underground dungeons to maximum security prisons. Explore law enforcement's evolution. 911 Week on Modern Marvels begins Monday, April 17th at 10 p.m. on the History Channel.
Welcome back to New York, and you heard Chris Fowler mention it. Thomas Jones is on the phone, and we can only assume it's with Arizona. And if we assume that Arizona needs a running back with, after a season in which they ranked 29th in the NFL in rushing, in which their quarterback struggled through injury, Jake Plummer, and struggled just period, and which their guys who get hurt and their returning backs, none of them gained 300 yards, Thomas Jones comes without any questions, without any injury questions, Mel and Joe. And you talk about a solid kid, graduated UVA in 3 years, but played his 4th year as eligible as a grad student. I don't know, it's a slam dunk for me. What about you guys?
Well, I'll tell you what, the improvement the last 2 years, he averaged 3.4 yards a carry back in 97. 98, 99, 5.5, 5.8 a carry. And I tell you what, talk about competition in the ACC. Florida State's the national champion, had 164 against the Seminoles. So he put up the big numbers against everybody.
And also the Redskins wind up with Adrian Morrell, so you really don't have a proven running back. The problem you have is Michael Pittman just hasn't been able to stay healthy. He could be an answer, but they aren't waiting and aren't taking a chance. I agree with Chris. I agree with Mel. I think Thomas Jones right here is an ideal situation. As a matter of fact, the board has gone pretty much the way we expected it to, and I'm sure the way each team that has picked so far is very happy with the people that are still available.
Well, there may be a question of phone calls into Arizona for teams that covet a Plaxico Burress, or teams that maybe covet linebacker Brian Urlacher, who Arizona also likes. We got to think running back, but they got to be answering the phones. Ed Werder, you're in Washington. What do you hear lately?
Well, I just talked to the Cardinals, and there were 2 considerations for them here. Running back best available, or go linebacker with the defense and take Brian Urlacher. And I think the decision they've come to is they like Thomas Jones just a little bit better than Sean Alexander because of Jones' ability to run between the tackles and break tackles.
All right, Ed, thank you, and we shall see what Arizona does there as what. About 7 minutes left on the clock. Now, there's good news, bad news. We have this discussion with Philly and with Arizona. But the bad news is that they're drafted this early, which means they come off a season in which in Arizona's case was 6-10.
Right.
The good news is they're a year removed from a playoff berth and a road playoff win over the Dallas Cowboys. So, year 3, Jake Plummer. What do we expect?
I expect him to be able to step up this year. I think it's very critical for Jake Plummer to be able to step up and say, I am the leader of this football team. He's got to play better football. He's really got to make better decisions. He will have a running game. Mark Trestman, with the receivers he has, will be able to give him an opportunity to throw the football the places he wants. This is the year that Jake steps up. It happened for Elvis Gerback last year. It happened for Steve McNair. Cordell Stewart was a disappointment. He again will have an opportunity to step up and be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's Jake Plummer's team to lead, but he's got to get some help in the running game. It would be a mistake if they took anything but a running back.
I tell you what else as we go to Mike Tirico in a moment. Arizona was snake bitten, and I don't say that to be humorous with where they're located, but car accidents, injuring players on the offensive line. Lately, David Boston, they've had a rough season, really off the field in addition to on. Mike Tirico, word?
Well, Chris, as we wait and ponder to see what Arizona is up to at the bottom of every hour, we're going to take you around the league, find out what's going on at the draft headquarters, where we have reporters, and we start with Susie Colbert, who's in Cleveland. Susie.
Mike, here in Cleveland, the Browns brass are eagerly awaiting the arrival of their #1 overall pick. Penn State defensive end Courtney Brown has come to terms. It's a 6-year contract. We'll get more details on the deal when Brown arrives. Let's go to Ed Werder.
Well, here with the Redskins, Norv Turner said just a few minutes ago, referring to their number 2 and 3 picks, LeVar Arrington and Chris Samuels, not only will they become immediate starters, but immediate big-time players. The War Room supervising this draft, Dan Snyder and Vinny Serrato, Director of Player Personnel, for the first time. They like what they've gotten. They've been on the phone discussing contract parameters with their players. Dan Snyder says there's an understanding. Redskins don't hold out. Let's go to Solomon Wilcots.
Baltimore head coach Brian Billick said that the team that can run the ball inside the red zone will hold the keys to the kingdom. So, Baltimore, they will take, in the first round, running back Jamal Lewis from Tennessee. Look for them to use their 10th overall selection to go for one of the many big play wide receivers remaining in the draft. Now let's go to Tom Jackson.
There's a lot of activity here at the Jets camp with Al Groh and his staff, and certainly I think there is now anticipation that this team may be moving up. As Coach Groh put it to me, a lot of things have to fall in place for you to get your guy. A lot of those little things have happened early on. The Jets looking for one big thing to happen so they could move up and possibly get their guy. Now let's go to Sean Salisbury.
Here in Santa Clara, you see the beauty that surrounds the outside of the 49er complex. Inside the War Room, the brass that makes the decisions. Steve Mariucci, Terry Donahue, and General Manager Bill Walsh, and a lot of decisions they must make and a lot of needs. While they'd love an offensive tackle, they need defensive help, pass rusher, and secondary help, in particular at corner. Remember, this team gave up 36 touchdowns via the pass last year, last in the National Football League. Let's go to Hank Goldberg.
Well, in St. Louis, the beauty's in this room. No, not me. It's the Vince Lombardi trophy over my shoulder. That's what you get for winning the Super Bowl. What you also get is the last pick in the first round. And while all jobs here are filled, the Rams do need some depth in their offensive line. Unless an outstanding cornerback would follow them, or perhaps a big-time defensive lineman, that's the direction that they're going to go with their first pick. And at least they're looking ahead to see where their unrestricted free agents come up in the next year or two, and at least 2 of those will be cornerbacks. That gives you a clue. Let's now go to Sal Palantonio.
Here in Tampa, after trading their 2 number 1s for Keyshawn Johnson, the Bucs don't pick to number 57 in the 2nd round, but look at their starting lineup. 12 of their starters were drafted by the Bucs in rounds 2 through 7, Boomer, so they've had some success drafting in the later rounds. Let's go back to you in New York.
All right, Sal and all the gang, thank you very much. The Arizona Cardinals have made their choice. Let's go up to the podium with the 7th pick in the first draft of Y2K.
With the 7th choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the Arizona Cardinals select Thomas Jones, running back, University of Virginia.
Good. That's the correct pick. Now, let me ask you a question, Mel and Joe. And again, I'm asking coming out of college. Because I think a good comparison might be Fred Taylor. 2 years ago was picked, what, the 9th pick by Jacksonville. Thomas Jones, Fred Taylor coming out of school, because we know how productive Fred has been for Jacksonville. Where would you rate the 2?
Well, remember, Fred Taylor kept climbing and climbing that senior year. He didn't really go into a senior with a high grade and kept moving up. Look at Thomas Jones. He's been there pretty much all year, projected to go to Arizona back in December when I started to do those projections of round 1. You watch Thomas Jones over the last 2 years and the elusiveness and that game-breaking ability. We're talking about the average per carry going from 3.4 yards to 5.5 yards. And you watch the ability here, the vision That's the key for Thomas Jones. And then to smell the end zone. This is against Florida State, national champion. 26 carries, 164 yards, 6 receptions out of the backfield, as well as a touchdown. So he did it against everybody. You see the ability here catching the football. Finished his career at Virginia with 71 receptions out of the backfield. That was the key here. He chips away at the blitzer. He does it all in terms of the running back position. A guy that has that all-around ability. And for Arizona, talked about Jake Plummer. Boy, can an all-around back like Thomas Jones assist to Jake Plummer, allow him to really live up to all the hype that has surrounded Jake Plummer throughout the early stages of his career.
So Arizona, we feel, has done the proper. Well, let's go quickly to Ron Jaworski up in Bristol. Jaws?
Well, thanks, Boomer. You know, when you look at this running back, Thomas Jones, you see a guy that has a complete package. Patience. He really has a game that is set up for the pro game because of the running style that they used at Virginia. You know, deep in that I backfield position. You know, a good vision, good instincts. Here we'll take a look at him running the counter tray, a pro-style run. You'll see that the line will try to get everyone moving to the right, and they'll come back to the left side. The guard will pull. The fullback will pull. Thomas Jones will set this up, moving to the right. Outstanding job of being patient, allowing the fullback and the guard to clear out. He explodes up in there for the touchdown. Here, follow the leader, the ISO Bob, a real staple in the National Football League. Follow the fullback on the backer. Oh, what happens? The linebacker crashes to the inside. Read and react. That's what Thomas Jones does. Bounces to the outside. Quick feet, good moves, good vision, and explodes down the sideline. Good acceleration, does get caught from behind here, but a lot of guys do in the NFL. But what I love right here, the quick feet, this is what it's all about in the NFL. Making people miss with that quick stutter move right there. Bounce to the outside. Again, once again, a good Florida State football team that he runs by, Boomer. This guy will fit nicely into that Arizona offense. And also, he caught 71 balls last year. Plummer's got to be happy, Boom.
No question about it, Jaws. 36 rushing touchdowns in his career at Virginia. That stutter move is, well, that can freeze a linebacker or two. We'll be back because this is a hot spot for Pittsburgh. We'll be back.
Hi, I'm Eric Webster. Join me on Channel 200 for this week's edition of DirecTV Big Events, where we'll give you just a taste of the Eurythmics in concert and talk to a few of the warriors brave enough to enter the Ultimate Fighting Octagon. Plus, we'll hear from heavyweight Lennox Lewis, tell you about the WCW's upcoming Melee, and show you how a symphony immortalizes some of rock and roll's biggest legends. We're on Channel 200 all week, so be sure to stop by.
Follow the bounding ball like millions all over the world. Call 1-800-GET-SPORTS and get the 2000 regular season of MLS ESPN Shootout for just $69. Catch the best action from around the league, including up to 11 playoff games. Call 1-800-GET-SPORTS right now and score with 2000 MLS ESPN Shootout.
Lately, it's been questioned whether 3Play from ESPN.com is a form of gambling and therefore detrimental to America's youths. With me today is Atlantic City pit boss, Freddie B. Is 3Play a form of gambling? Kids, pay attention.
No.
There you have it. 3Play from ESPN.com. It's free. It's sports. Give me the briefcase. It's money.
It's a significant amount of money.
Presented by 1-800-CALL-ATT.
Welcome back to New York, where the Pittsburgh Steelers are on an intriguing spot on the clock. But let's go elsewhere in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania and join with our Tenactin video conference, the head football coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, Andy Reid. And we welcome you to our program. And Andy, a year ago they were booing you here. I heard cheers today. What are you doing?
Well, I don't know, Boomer. It's those cheesesteaks.
We mentioned on the air a little conversation that you and I had about Corey Simon, and you said if you drafted him, you would be sure that he would be able to stop a train with that shoulder. This morning you said a bus, no problem. A train, we're looking into it. What convinced you in the end that he's no problem medically?
Well, I'll tell you what, Tom Odrak and his group did a great job of targeting Corey from right from the beginning, and we knew we had a fine football player there. It was a concern with the shoulders. We had 9 doctors look at him on his visit up here, and we felt that he was the guy.
Obviously, you picked defensive tackle in the first round. But as you look at your football team, maybe just on the first few picks, what is it that you have to change overall? You've already addressed a defense that gave up a ton of yards, albeit you made a lot of turnovers. What must you improve on to make a move in your division through this draft? What do you got to do?
Well, you know how I'm always going to look at the lines first, and we did that. Now, you know, who knows what we go with next? That's kind of the surprise, Boomer. Doggone it.
Donovan McNabb, talk about his progress as the year went on last year.
Well, he did a nice job. He's a very diligent worker. You do all this homework and on what kind of character you get, and he turned out to be tremendous.
Well, you're on your way in Philadelphia. Go back in there, and Corey Simon's your man. The train can come through Philadelphia safely.
That's right. Thanks, Boomer.
All right, Andy Reid has done a good job in his first year as coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. And now we move to the Pittsburgh Steelers spot.
A great
in
debate.
which, and a great debate is going on, I think, in the Steelers war room right now. Between, if you're going to pick a quarterback in this draft, there's one in the first round, Chad Pennington Marshall. Plaxico Burress, wide receiver, Michigan State, a huge, well, there's Pennington. Is this too high for him?
I don't think so. I think you really have to take a look at what the Pittsburgh Steelers need. They were very disappointed with Cordell Stewart last year. They will give him a chance to be the quarterback. They brought in a Kent Graham. But you take a look at Chad Pennington's numbers. He's 45-6. That means he can win as a starter. 3 MAC championships. The question really you start to ask yourself is, okay, what's the level of competition? He played in the MAC conference. So did Randy Moss. I rest my case. Matter of fact, Chad Pennington had a chance to throw the ball to Randy Moss. I think Chad Pennington has a lot of the intangibles. He moves well, doesn't necessarily have the strongest arm, but really I discount that now. The way the systems are set up with the short drops, the 3 and the 5-step drops, he's okay with an arm strength that he has. He has the ability to win. That's what coaches are looking for, and he possesses leadership. I think it would be a good choice if Pittsburgh decided to go for Chad Pennington here.
Mel, where does he rank with the 5 guys that went in the first round last year?
He's right there, Chris. 25-1 over the last 2 years. He wins football games. Talking about a cerebral approach like a Peyton Manning, the effortless motion like a Joe Montana. To me, it would take about 2 seconds to send the card up to Paul Tagliabue.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's the bigger question. If they take Chad Pennington with or Cordell Stewart, should they take a quarterback? Or can Cordell Stewart regain the confidence in his teammates and Pittsburgh move forward with him? And should they therefore draft someone who could help him, like Burress?
I don't think they can wait for Cordell Stewart to try and move forward. If he does work out, that's fine. I think if you can get yourself a Chad Pennington right now and you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, it helps you. I personally think the wide receiver would be better for this offense. So, to me, I would go with the wide receiver. But if you feel like you need it, if you're in that room and you say, we need a quarterback, Chad Pennington would be a good choice here.
Well, that's a big debate for Pittsburgh, and it's larger than just which kid ranks higher on the board. Mort, what's Pittsburgh thinking about with Pennington? Is this a real shot here, or is this kind of a smokescreen?
Well, I think it's a real consideration here. They have got to get an impact receiver, or they got to go ahead and make the quarterback move here. If they take Chad Pennington, does Cordell Stewart now become their impact receiver project? That's something that they have been discussing, whether Cordell Stewart accepts that and whether or not they just take Plaxico Burress here. I know we're about to find out. That is a huge issue right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, Mortimer, I'm going to guess the wide receiver, but a little suspense here, maybe for the first time this afternoon. To the podium.
With the 8th choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Plaxico Burress, wide receiver, Michigan State.
It's all right. That's okay. This is a big statement that they're making with Cordell in addition to Plaxico Burress. And in talking with Coach Bill Cowher, he's not concerned about the, quote, attitude that some people are wondering about Plaxico. They say He's a little bit immature, but he wants to win. He wants to deliver, and boy, what a size for a receiver.
Well, great size, Chris. 6'5", plus about 230 pounds. You see a lot of Keyshawn Johnson in Plaxico Burress. Started 24 games over the last 2 years. Look at that size, the ability to get off the line of scrimmage. That's what Plaxico Burress brings to your offense. The productivity at 17-yard average per catch. You see a lot of 5'9", 5'10", 5'11 corners. That's an imposing frame with long arms and huge hands. A very competitive player, very aggressive football player. He'll go anywhere to catch the football. Deep, come inside, make those inside receptions. The big routes, I think the route running ability needs to be upgraded, but he's still a little raw. Remember, only played 2 years. You see the aggressiveness here, the downfield blocking ability. Here, the reception, and then almost it's like a tight end in the open field with that size and strength. Here, after the interception, making a tackle. He did a great job on special teams when he first came to Michigan State. So he rounds off his game, a little raw right now. This is against Florida. Citrus Bowl. He knew he was coming out. Juniors can't go to all-star games either. This is my last opportunity to showcase my skills. He put together a great effort. Now, will he be able to come into the NFL and take it by storm? He may take a little while to develop, but he's going to complement Troy Edwards. Troy Edwards doesn't have great size. Burress does. My question is, who's going to get him the quarterback? My attitude is Chad Pennington here, I thought would have made a little bit more sense, Chris.
Well, but here, as you mentioned, they got a good pick with Edwards last year. They're trying to rebuild what they lose because they don't have the budget that other teams do. And this 6'5" young man from Virginia Beach, Virginia, questioned Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit on his, quote, attitude. Should there be a question?
Well, it depends on who you ask, Chris. I had a chance to visit with Burress at the Final Four, where he was watching Mateen Cleaves and his Michigan State friends win the national title. There were some reports that he'd blown off a meeting with the Eagles that weekend. He said he didn't know about that, but he was very loose and relaxed and perhaps too matter-of-fact about the draft process for some teams.
I think the key here with Plaxico Burress is you got to get him motivated and get him hungry, and if you can get him focused, he has a chance to be an exceptional receiver at the next level. He's big. Not only is he a big target, but he plays big. He has long arms, and when he plays with confidence, he can dominate smaller cornerbacks, and we saw that a number of times in college.
He played against the highest level of competition in college and dominated some very good corners. 3 touchdown catches against Michigan. He was a dominant factor in that game. He outdueled Taylor in Florida in the bowl game. But again, should you have to light a fire under a guy and get him to play big every game? Because he didn't show up every game.
Well, I think that's going to be a challenge for Bill Cowher. Luckily, he's going to a coach that knows how to push the buttons. I think that is the entire key behind a guy like Plax Burress. He has all the tools, everything you want. It's just a matter of getting him motivated, getting him focused. When you do that, the rest is history. He'll take care of business.
Chris, back to you.
All right, guys, thank you. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have chosen Plaxico Burress. Chicago is up next, another team on the move. But let's go to the Steelers and the statement they just made to Cordell and for their overall offense by not taking Pennington.
Well, I think, first of all, when you take a wide receiver, you say to Cordell Stewart, we want you to focus totally on the quarterback situation. Last year when he was benched, he spent a couple of weeks as a receiver in the meetings. At the end of the season, he was back in the quarterback meetings working on it. He's the guy that they want going in. But you look at Troy Edwards, Hein Wards, Courtney Hawkins, Bobby Shaw, Will Blackwell. None of them have the size of a Plaxico Burress. When you think of Kevin Gilbride's offense, you know the wide receivers like to go inside. He's got the move guys with Ward, Hines Ward, and also Troy Edwards. Now he has a big target. I think as a quarterback, when you can throw the ball in a range with a big guy, it makes it easier for you. It takes a lot of pressure off the throws that you have to make. I think by taking Plaxico Burress, you also wind up helping Cordell Stewart out or Kent Graham or Anthony Wright. There's 3 quarterbacks there, I think, that will compete for the job. So the big receiver makes an awful lot of sense here.
Well, as Plaxico Burress goes to Pittsburgh, some thought that maybe this would be a spot that the New York Jets might move up to take, if not a complete replacement for Keyshawn Johnson, but in many ways a Keyshawn Jr., Plaxico Burress. They did not or could not make a move. Let's go out to Jets headquarters on Long Island to join Tom Jackson. You surprised that they let perhaps this opportunity for Burress go, or was he not really in there, as we say, crosshairs?
Well, Chris, I think he was certainly in there thinking, and a lot of things had to go their way. I said earlier that head coach Al Gross said there was one big thing that had to happen in order for them to get the guy that they wanted at that moment, and I think Plaxico would have been a perfect fit for them. The big thing that had to happen was Pittsburgh had to lean toward Chad Pennington rather than going for the wide receiver slot. And I think one of the great things here is that Al Groh and Bill Parcells have a great view of the big picture of things. And even as you know that the Ravens are leaning toward maybe a wide receiver possibly at the 10 spot, I think the understanding is that Travis Taylor is much the better fit for what Brian Billick wants to do than would have been Plexico Burress. So, yes, I think there's some amount of disappointment, but, you know, again, this team has 4 choices still intact, and that's not bad.
No, it's not bad, Tommy, and we're about to hear New York, start spreading the news. It's coming up right here, and you know that. And maybe someone that they might think about. I'm not saying they should, Mel, but the Jets become a player in a Chad Pennington, not duel, but they become a player. San Francisco is a player, perhaps. Denver is a player, perhaps. Oakland.
Seattle.
I don't know about Seattle. Maybe.
Thought.
Carolina, maybe, if he goes that far. Those are hot spots, I think, for the one quarterback in the first round. When he starts going, do you think it's a bargain?
I think it's amazing, Chris, he's still on the board. I think you're talking about a potential franchise signal caller with Chad Pennington, who really is on a par with Tim Couch and Donovan McNabb, Achilles Smith. Now he's dropping down. I think Pittsburgh 3 years from now will regret not taking Chad Pennington with that 8th overall pick. Look at the New York Jets. I think a quarterback here, when you have 12 and 13, you have 4 overall selections in round 1. Sure, you have need areas. Quarterback is one of those need areas, and I think when you look at Vinny Testaverde, not getting any younger, you better start thinking about that position. You have the 12th pick. If a Pennington, who I think is the 5th or 6th best player in this draft, drops down to 12, as I said with Pittsburgh, 2 seconds for me to send that card up to Paul Tagliabue with Chad Pennington's name on it.
Well, barring a trade, he's easily going to fall down to 12. Chicago's not going to pick one pick down. Baltimore, I don't think they're going to do it. And the Giants,
right.
We think we're going to go running back. So, but before we go, the first card sent up of the day was Courtney Brown, who is the defensive end from Penn State, giving the Nittany Lions 1-2 at the top of the draft. The big man's with Mike Tirico. Mike, look up at him.
Fortunately, Chris, we found seats, so we're sitting together now as Courtney gets ready to head off to Cleveland to go meet the Browns. In your meetings with the Browns, when they interviewed you, what impressed you most about them?
You know, my meeting this morning with the Browns, they were willing to get the deal done, and we agreed to get the deal done, and I'm just anxious and ready to get to Cleveland and play some football.
Obviously, it meant a lot to them. They sent their franchise, currently Tim Couch, out to get you. You've met Tim Couch on the football field before today, haven't you?
Yeah, I met him quite a few times. You know, we talked about it in our last visit, but he's excited and I'm excited, and can't wait to get started.
But what about this meeting with Tim Couch? Taking on Kentucky in the bowl game.
Yeah, that was, that's in the past now. Let's get ready to start something new.
That gives Cleveland fans a sign for the future, what may come. Enjoy your trip to Cleveland. Best of luck to you. We should point out Courtney's going to use his new money to big advantage. Some lipstick stains already from family from kissing him too much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
To the commissioner, the next pick from Chicago is at the podium. Here's Commissioner Tagliabue.
With the 9th choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the Chicago Bears select Brian Urlacher, linebacker, New Mexico.
I got to tell you, Joe and Mel, this has gone the first 9 right down the middle of the fairway.
No big deal.
I mean, they're not hitting drivers. This is 3-wood.
That's right.
This is placement, placement, placement. Yeah. Brian Urlacher from New Mexico is a guy that many folks, until they start reading your book and reading others, never really heard of a linebacker from New Mexico, but he was moving up on about 20 teams' list, Mel.
Really did. A special athlete. Look at his combine numbers. Talking about strength, 27 reps, under 4.6 speed, and that vertical jump, the broad jump. Tremendous athleticism. Now, we're talking about Brian Urlacher, not heavily recruited out of the prep ranks, only recruited by New Mexico and New Mexico State. Weighed 218 pounds early on at New Mexico, became a linebacker, middle linebacker, then a rover over the last 2 years. That gave him that freedom of going forward, really attacking. And from that rover position, he made an awful lot of big plays, had 154 tackles this past year, 90 of which were solos. You see the ability here, instincts, vision to locate the ball, and then that chase ability and the speed. And when he arrives on the scene, he hits like a ton of bricks. And I think that sideline to sideline ability as either a middle linebacker or an outside linebacker is going to be key. Here's against Air Force. Last game of the regular season, returned 3 kickoffs. During the regular season, averaged 15.8 yards per punt return. Also, 6 touchdown receptions as a red zone wide receiver. There was even talk about it making him a fullback or a tight end at the pro level. This was at the Senior Bowl where he really settled in as a linebacker, Chris, and if he does that and they leave him at one spot and don't try to make him a safety or a fullback or a tight end, I think he has Pro Bowl capabilities.
The Lobos are not a place you often see in the first round. In fact, Brian Urlacher is the first player drafted in the first round from New Mexico since Robin Cole. And you remember him, a very good linebacker for the Steelers from New Mexico in 1977. So if he plays well as Robin Cole, it's a pretty good pick from the up-and-coming Bears. We'll talk with Bill Cowher when we return.
Eyes of a puppy dog, lips made for sin. You're not dreaming. I'm for real. We got a call.
Hello.
Lewis?
Yeah?
Lewis?
Want to get away? Now you can. Fly Southwest Airlines coast to coast for $99 or less when you purchase tickets by May 3rd and travel Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday.
You are now free to move about the country.
Hi.
Oh, yeah, hi.
You seem a little slow there.
Well, I was stunned by your beauty. Buy you a Miller Lite, it tastes great.
Sure, but I like it because it's less filling.
Huh? Well, opposites attract. That's a good one. You want to go someplace and talk?
Yeah.
Grab a Miller Lite. It's Miller time.
Rookie.
Boom! Stop dead in his tracks. That's how fast Tough Actin' Tenactin Pump Spray works. It stops the itching and burning of athlete's foot dead. The only leading brand so tough it prevents athlete's foot. Tackle athlete's foot symptoms in seconds with Tough Actin' Tenactin.
FogDog.com, your anytime, anywhere sports store. Fog Dog.
Welcome back to New York. Baltimore is on the clock with their second pick in the top 10. We expect them to go for wide receiver Travis Taylor. We shall see. Chicago just picked Brian Urlacher. But before that, I think of the most intriguing and question mark pick, at least to some, was the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting Plexico Burress, the big wide receiver from Michigan State. And joining us now on our Tenactin video conference is the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Bill, how true was the debate between perhaps a quarterback, Pennington, and perhaps a productive receiver in Burress? Did this go right down to the wire, or did you know kind of deep down a couple days ago?
Well, really, Chris, we've kind of been looking at this for the last couple of weeks. I mean, we looked at both players and felt like they're both very quality players. But I think when you look at our football team, the value of this pick in this round, you know, we felt like Plaxico was a guy that we couldn't afford to pass up.
Is Plaxico a guy that you've talked to and met a couple of times that you feel comfortable with? I mean, he's very confident, which is a great thing, but can be a bad thing if it's not handled right. Do you feel you guys are on the same page with your meetings so far?
Yeah, I think it's been good. I mean, we've talked a lot, particularly the last couple of days. We had him in, and I feel very comfortable. You know, I've talked to him on a number of occasions, and each and every time I've given him times to call me back, and he is, I think we've gotten off on the right foot, but certainly, you know, a lot has to be done from this point on, and you got to earn your credibility in this league. But I like his mindset. I like the qualities that he has and really what he can become.
You told me that a lot of the team had already been in Pittsburgh and working out, and that includes your quarterback, Cordell Stewart. What kind of statement is this pick to Cordell Stewart in particular, Coach?
Well, I don't even know if it's to Cordell, Chris. I look at it as to our football team. This was an area that we wanted to address. We said it from the time that the season was over. And I think when you look at our football team, you look at the fit that Plaxico brings into it with the young Troy Edwards, who I feel is maturing very much, Hines Ward, Will Blackwell. I think we now have some threats out there. Running the football is going to be something we're going to want to do, and I think we've got a good core of backs to do that. Now you want to stop the run. I think we have some people outside that can make you pay. And I think that's what we had to do on offense, is try to find some people that people are going to have to account for, that can threaten and get some big plays for us. And I think Plaxico fits that mold.
Hey, what happened to this defensive-minded jut jaw Bill Cowher that I once knew? Wide receivers in the first 2 rounds the last 3 years? What's going on there?
Well, I think the one thing that happens in being on defense, if you don't score points, you find yourself behind a lot. So we got to score some points. We got to put some points on the board, move the football, and I think we still have some productive players on our defense that you put them in some must situations of having to throw the ball, then you're usually pretty good statistically defensively. So I think we addressed what we had to address on this football team, and that was getting a playmaker, and I think he was the best playmaker on the board at this point.
Pushing the envelope on both sides. You've just done that with the pick. Thanks for joining us, Bill.
Thanks, Chris.
Bill Cowher, head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, a very large target to go with Edwards, a smaller target last year. When we return, quoth the Ravens. That's good enough. You know?
That's fine.
There's a storm headed your way.
I got a bad feeling about this.
And the forecast for this month.
Are you ready for this?
Great entertainment.
Excuse me?
When April showers you with Hollywood's hottest hits. Playing on direct ticket.
Let's get this show on the road.
Double Jeopardy.
You can kill him. There's nothing anybody can do about it.
Hello, Nick.
Blue Streak.
You're the new lead detective. How'd you get so good?
The Sixth Sense.
I see dead people. Please make them leave. I'm working on it.
The Bone Collector.
Tell me what you see.
Yeah, he cut him up pretty bad.
There's a killer out there. He's laughing at us.
Stigmata.
Let me be your messenger.
You have no idea who you're dealing with.
Random Hearts.
My wife was on that plane, but your husband was not.
You'll never find what you're looking for.
There's plenty of thrills, action, and chills. When April showers you with the best in movie entertainment.
Believe that.
It's raining hits all month long.
You're kidding, right?
No, I'm not.
On direct ticket pay-per-view.
Baseball Tonight, every night at 10 and midnight on ESPN.
Just after 2 Eastern, let's update you on the 2000 NFL Draft with Baltimore on the clock. Penn State players become the third 1-2 players from the same college since the AFL and NFL started drafting together in '67. Chris Samuel starts the new generation of Hogs in Washington. Baltimore has the 10th pick of the draft, but 2 running backs have already been taken in the top 7, starting when the Ravens took Jamal Lewis. Thomas Jones of Arizona completing that. The Ravens' second first-round pick is number 10 overall. The clock is stopped. That means the commissioner has the card, and here is their selection.
With the 10th choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the Baltimore Ravens select Travis Taylor, wide receiver from Florida.
We parred the 10th, Joe.
Right.
We went out in an even par. We had our burger. And this is Travis Taylor to Baltimore, and it's kind of what we expected them to do.
Everybody
pushing the envelope, right, offensively.
Everybody has filled needs. You look at Baltimore, they got the running back they wanted. They really got the running back, as Mel had mentioned. If he had been healthy, would have been the #1 running back in this draft. He gives them the versatility. Now you've got the speed receiver that he wanted. Travis Taylor is not just a small player. He's a big guy. And then again, it's something that Brian Billick was looking for. He went offense to take care of his problems. Now he feels like he has the complement of what he needs to be able to put points on the board.
Dedicated, works hard, and faster than Warwick.
Yeah, faster than Warwick. I think we look at him, Chris, and certainly bigger than Peter Warwick, a guy that certainly isn't the dynamic, creative playmaker that Peter Warwick is. When you look at Travis Taylor, the size, ideal, almost 200 pounds, over 6 feet tall. Productivity, excellent in 98. Dropped off some in 99. Remember, he had an ankle injury early this past season. Did come back and have that huge game against Michigan State when he was going up against Plaxico Burrs and the Spartans. He had 11 catches, 156 yards in that game. Knows when to body catch, knows when to extend his hands to catch the football. And he's also excellent in terms of just shrugging off that cornerback and taking it down the field. So a kid who's going to get better and better. You see him isolated here. Watch, stop, go. Cornerback fooled, and he's able to pull in the reception on the deep pass, over the shoulder catch for the touchdown. A guy who was very polished despite the fact that he did not go back for a senior year at Florida. And I think that's going to allow him to be a contributor to a receiving corps. I know Brian Billick likes already. You have Patrick Johnson, you have Kadri Ishmael, you have Brandon Stokely, second-year proof, who they feel can be a contributor, and Justin Armour. So there's some talent already there. Now Travis Taylor really accentuates things, Joe.
Taylor Lewis, wide receiver, running back. They signed Shannon Sharp in the offseason, tight end. Offensive coach Brian Billick with our Solomon Wilcots. He's pushed the envelope on that side of the ball, Solomon.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And, Coach, you get Jamal Lewis with your first pick, and then you take Florida wide receiver Travis Taylor. He played 3 years in college. What is the biggest adjustment you think he'll have to make to produce on the pro level?
Well, obviously, any young player coming in is going to have to deal with the speed and the physical nature of the game. But this is a hard-working young man. He's got some excellent tools, and he'll adapt very quickly.
All right, thanks, Coach. I have to send it back. Back to you, Chris.
All right, Solomon and Coach Billick, and now the Giants fans, and they're on the clock. And if they want production, maybe they ought to think about this guy. Let's go to the commissioner, Paul Tagliabue.
Do you know who it is?
I'm going to take it. I think we're going to par this hole, Joe.
With the 11th choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the New York Giants select Heisman Trophy winner Ron Dane, running back, Wisconsin.
The New York Football Giants. New helmet, back to their glory days in the early 60s. And way back when on those teams, when they used to draft in the first round, backs like Frank Gifford and Kyle Rote, who are excellent players. Well, if you want production, how about 7,125 yards? The first back ever to rush for 7,000 yards in NCAA history, breaking Ricky Williams' mark. How about 71 rushing touchdowns? How about 12 200-yard games for Ron Dane, which ties Ricky Williams and Marcus Allen's NCAA record? Not only did he gain 2,000 last year, Ron Dane gained 2,000, people forget, in 96.
He did, Chris. I think you look at Ron Dane, production between the tackles on the inside with that power, that balance in traffic. He picks up a lot of yards when average running backs would have been taken down. So I think when you look at Ron Dane, the key is going to be keeping his weight at an optimal level. You see it there at about 259. You want it to be around 255. The eyes, the vision, the power, the determination. The production was exceptional. And it was really after Brooks Bollinger was inserted at quarterback that allowed defenses to really worry about the flanks on the option, worry about the pass, and Ron Dane ran wild on his way to a Heisman Trophy year. Key's going to be at the pro level, the ability to catch the football. Only had 1 reception this past year, had 20 early on, but if you watch him, he fights the ball some, not a natural receiver as you see here. So that 1 catch needs more experience. Swing passes, screen passes is how he'll be used with the New York Giants. You see him making defenders miss. This is against UCLA in the Rose Bowl when he put up big numbers. But the key for Ron Dane, if he's going to be as productive in the NFL, the weight. People say, yeah, he's a fumbler. He fumbled against Cincinnati going into the end zone. The Bearcats pulled the upset. That's not the case. Only had 9 fumbles his entire career despite all those carries. Gives you everything he has. Not the fiery guy that I'll say Jerome Bettis is, but a guy that certainly, if everything works out, best case scenario, he complements Kerry Collins very effectively.
And remember, the Giants going to a grass field at the Meadowlands. I think a big guy like this on a grass field is better than on the turf. You heard the term in New York Minute? The Jets are on the clock, and they couldn't even wait. Their pick is already up there.
With the 12th choice in the NFL Draft 2000, the New York Jets select Sean Ellis, defensive end, Tennessee.
You know what? I think that's a par also. reversal with the way the Jets have gone. And we'll get back to Dane, and we shortchanged the Bears a little bit too as well. But the Jets now have the 12 and 13 picks. So even though that pick came up in 2 minutes because they know they want him, they have 28 more minutes to make a lot of phone calls. They can take 28 minutes to take this next pick. Hey, look, the Jets 2 years ago went to the championship game against Denver with a defensive line that had no household names on it. Last year, when the offense had the injuries, they, of course, couldn't play, although they played tough defense. But this is obviously an area of need for the New York Jets, and this is no surprise, Mel, is it?
Well, I'll tell you, look at Sean Ellis, Chris. He's going to have to be a pass rusher supreme at the pro level, and that's what he showed over the last 2 years at Tennessee. You look at Sean Ellis, size 6'4", 280, very athletic. I like tackles for loss more than sacks. I always believe sacks are very overrated. There's Sean Ellis here at number 93. You see the athleticism, the ability to chase. This is against Eric Crouch, quarterback from Nebraska, who's got outstanding speed. He chased him down. Here again, left defensive end position, coming off the edge, hitting Quincy Carter. The thing that concerns me with Sean Ellis is a little bit of inconsistency. I think he needs to pick it up a bit on a game-to-game basis. The technique will improve at the pro level, but he does show natural pass rush instincts. This early, I think it's still a little bit of a roll of the dice, Joe.
I just don't agree with that. I think when you look at the Jets and you consider the picks that they have, you've got to get what's there. Certainly, I think the Green Bay Packers wanted Sean Ellis. You had him rated very high, right behind Corey Simon, right? So, I mean,
not quite this high.
Not quite that high, but in that area. And I think if you're a football team that has specific needs, you have to take the time to be able to go out and get the players you want. With as many choices as the Jets have, you take the people you need right now that best suit your needs. Defensively, they certainly were there. 30th in sacks, 25th in rushing touchdowns allowed. An area of need for the New York Jets. When you get to the later picks, now you might be able to make a few moves.
Well, the Jets, in no particular order, areas of need: defensive end, wide receiver now, obviously, tackle, tight end, and do they pull the trigger somewhere in here for the quarterback? They are now on the clock for quite a while. That was a New York minute. Now we have a New York red light. But we go out to Long Island and join Tom Jackson. And, Tommy, that first pick did not take long. They knew about him no matter what would happen at this spot, didn't they?
Well, yeah, I think the Jets were very high on Sean Ellis, had him rated behind Courtney Brown. And this fills one of the needs that they have. Obviously, they missed on the wide receiver just above them at 8, but they come back. They get the solid defensive end. I know that Coach Groh and Bill Parcells talked to me about getting a pass rusher, one of the outstanding pass rushers in this draft. He's going to start for this football team. And what we know with these next 3 choices and the next choice up is that he's looking for 3 starters in there, and there's certainly the possibility of 1 project.
Tommy, by saying that, does he entertain phone calls now? You think that's what he's doing a lot at this spot because he comes back and picks, what, 18, 5 places down? He's pretty sure who he's going to get there. Do you think he trades this pick or does he keep it? What do you think?
Well, I don't necessarily think he trades the pick. I think it's a wait-and-see situation. I was just up in the war room, and, they made that pick with Sean Ellis and made it pretty quickly. And I think that as it was put to me, now we're just going to wait and see what happens right at this moment.
All right, Tommy, they hope Ellis gets to the quarterback as quickly as they made that pick. Let's go up to the gallery gods and Mike Tirico. And what a surprise, Mike, the Jet fans are vocal.
Yes, your people. I'm with your people. Do you guys want the quarterback next? Would you like Chad Pennington pick?
I'd wait on that one.
Chad Pennington, yes or no?
I want Bubba Franks and Chad Pennington next.
All right. Chad Pennington, yes or no?
Bubba Franks!
Franks. There you go. Very scientific answer there. Chris, go ahead.
Well, now you have an idea what it is to go to Jet games sometimes in the upper deck. When Mike comes out of the Jet fans, who we will hear from early and often, let's tell you how the Jets became the first team ever to have 4 first-round picks. First team ever, all right? The season ended on January 4th. They own the 18th pick. Bill Belichick who left the Jets. And by the way, well, let me just do this, and then we'll give you a Belichick story. When Belichick signed with the Patriots, they eventually, you remember that whole scenario, they eventually let him out of his contract to be head coach of the Jets after Parcells abdicated the throne, if you will. It cost them a #1 pick, which was the 16th overall pick. The trade this week of Keyshawn Johnson to the Bucs gets them 13 and 27. And so then they trade with the 49ers the next day to move up, and they end up with 12, 13, 18, and 27. So that's the progression of the picks. By the way, the Bill Belichick saga, twice now, Joe, he's been head coach of the New York Football Jets. One for 3 days, actually 3 times. One for 3 days, one at the Pro Bowl, which I think was a win, and then another time for 1 day. Except for Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick is tied with the second leading winning percentage all time in the New York Jets. 0-0 at 500, tied with Sammy Baugh and ahead of Weeb Eubank. I just thought there's a statistic.
Just there you are.
And actually, with Parcells, you know what, I got to think he may be ahead.
When you look at the Jets and you look at the areas of need, I think Bubba Franks is a good choice here. Remember, they brought in Eric Green last year. It didn't work out for him. And when Bill Parcells signed Vinny Testaverde, one of the things he pointed out that Vinny really didn't get a chance to work to was the inside part of his passing game.